Helena Parola with the Planning Department.
Aaron Abney with the Planning Department.
Casey Cox with the Planning Department.
Well, thanks, everybody. Let's get right down to business, starting on page 2 of the agenda. Item 1, 2024-0535. Let's open the public hearing. No speaker cards. We'll continue that public hearing until 7:15:25. Item 2, 2024-0539. Council members, this would be time to declare your ex parte communication. Councilmember Gaffney Jr., you're recognized.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to rise to declare ex parte. I received a call from Greg Matavina last week. I can't recall the date. I actually missed his call, so he left a voicemail, but I'll make sure things get filed with legislative services.
All right, Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I rise to declare additional ex parte. I, too, got a message from Greg Matavina. Greg, sorry I didn't call you back. It's been pretty busy, but that is being filed with legislative services in addition to the ex parte that's already been filed. Thank you.
Councilmember Amaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, too, rise to declare ex parte. There was a message. I did not receive it personally, but I know that we did receive a message from Mr. Greg Matavina, so we'll file it accordingly.
All right, thank you. I also have ex parte communication. I did speak with the applicant, Mr. Matavina, to discuss that they were ready to go and the title issues that the owner was going through have been resolved. I don't see any other ex parte on here, but I know I had conversations probably last year in 2024, as this was filed a while back, with Emily Pierce, with Greg Matavina, just discussing kind of the challenges and the details of this rezoning, and we'll check the date when this was filed and when it started to get deferred, and we'll do our best to turn in accurate information on the ex parte conversation to legislative services. There's no one else in the queue, so let's open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you. This is application for PUD rezoning ordinance 2024-0539, which is seeking to rezone approximately 0.23 acres of land from a PUD that was approved back in 2009 to a new PUD to allow for the development of 5 single-family dwellings. The subject site is located along Stockton Street within the Riverside-Avondale zoning overlay and historic district. The current PUD that was approved in 2009 allowed for the development of 95 multifamily units, which is the John Gorey Condo Association, and new commercial uses along Stockton Street on the subject parcel. Staff has reviewed the request and finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the 2045 comprehensive plan with the existing land use category of high density residential, which allows for a maximum density of 60 units per acre and a minimum gross density of 20 units per acre. So for the 5 single-family lots on the parcel, this is approximately a 22 unit per acre density. The proposed rezoning furthers the goals and objectives of the comp plan and meets the internal and external compatibility factors. We have also evaluated it for the other criteria in relation to the Riverside Avondale zoning overlay. The rezoning is consistent with the overlay, as section 656.399.19 of the overlay states that single-family residential is allowed in any character area. This rezoning will not negatively affect or alter the character of the area. The primary development pattern for the surrounding neighborhood is single-family residential with limited commercial uses on the lots across the street along Stockton. Lot sizes and setbacks will also be similar in nature to the existing established historic pattern of development, and all new single-family dwellings will be reviewed and approved by the Historic Preservation Commission. Also, according to the site plan, there are 2 specimen trees located on the southern end of the parcel, which will not be impacted by the development and will not result in the destruction of natural resources. So because of these reasons and those in the staff report, we are forwarding a recommendation of approval. This application was heard by Planning Commission on August 22nd of 2024, where there were 7 speakers in opposition. Their concerns were related to increased flooding in the area and then the existing parking conditions along Stockton Street. So after a little discussion with the commission, they ultimately voted unanimously for approval.
All right, thank you for that. Time for the public comment cards. Mr. Matavita, are you going to act as the lead on this?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg Matavina, 12443 San Jose Boulevard.
Okay, pause it right there. We always give the applicant 5 minutes up front if you need to reserve some time for rebuttal, so we'll put 5 on the clock for you.
Thank you, sir. All right.
You're
Greg Matavina, 12443 San Jose Boulevard, and I'm just here to answer questions, and I'll address anything else during rebuttals, but I'll answer any questions that you might have now if you have any.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Next speaker, T.R. Hainline.
Questions only.
He's here for questions only, but in support. Next, we have Ruth Thomas. We're going to go with Thompson. Ruth Thompson, followed by Scott Kennelly.
Good afternoon. Can I just start?
Yes, state your name and address, or you can just say address on file since you put it on the card.
Okay, Ruth Thompson, 1605 Osceola Street, 32204. So I live only about maybe 5 blocks from this area, and I drove by it the other day, and the main thing I have is the parking. That if there's 5 houses, I feel that it should be reduced down to maybe 3, so that there is parking available on the side of the house or behind the house. Otherwise, if it's 5, then John Gorey needs to supply the parking in the back, because it's going to impact the businesses that are across the street that are already impacted by lack of parking. Bold Bean, Focus, the bicycle shop, 2 restaurants. There's quite a lot, and it's like in Riverside Avondale, we also want to support our businesses, our small businesses. So by putting 5 houses in this very small area, there is no parking. So I just feel like this area, the houses need to be reduced so that there can be parking provided next, not on the street, but a driveway where they can park. So that's just, I feel it is detrimental. It's a negative impact to the area and to the merchants that struggle already with parking. That's all I have to say.
Right. Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Scott Kennelly, followed by Thomas Liccato.
Hi there, Scott Kennelly from Rogers Towers. Address is on file, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant for questions only.
All right. Thank you. Thomas Liccato, followed by Ernest Cooper. Can you press the button on the microphone again there? Can you press the button on the mic? You turned it off, I think.
Can you start the time again?
We sure will.
You start the clock again?
What's going on here? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. How did we?
Okay, I'll leave it on now. Can you start the clock?
We'll do it one more time, sir. Feeling gracious today.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Liccato. I have lived at the John Gorey condominium for the last 12 years. The construction of 5 30-foot tall row homes on 0.23 acres would change the nature of the historic district, where one single-family home typically is on a plot this size. This construction would exacerbate traffic and parking issues, negatively affect small businesses, and decrease pedestrian safety at the Myra and College Street crossings on this important emergency vehicle corridor that connects to the I-10 evacuation route. Several years ago, the city made positive, forward-thinking decisions that created a small community in the heart of Riverside with thriving, tax-paying businesses, restaurants, a physical therapy clinic, a great coffee shop, a friendly bike shop, and other small businesses. The viability of these businesses that improve livability would be questionable with the approval of this PUD and will jeopardize the multi-year improvement in this neighborhood's quality of life. The Department of Public Works' proposal for Myra Street Crossing will increase congestion and make the corner more dangerous to vehicular traffic attempting to enter Stockton Street. It does nothing to improve the safety at College Street Crossing, where there is no street drain and where water regularly builds up, creating a dangerous pedestrian crossing, sometimes for days. The proposed construction, covering almost 60% of the current grass area, that includes the buildings and the concrete that they're going to pour, will increase runoff onto the street with existing poor drainage. The legacy of those positive decisions made years ago will be tarnished if this proposal is approved. Your legacy is at stake. A Planning Commission panel member stated that Avondale also has a parking issue as a justification for creating a more serious parking problem on Stockton Street. The viability of small businesses would be questionable. The safety of pedestrians and vehicular traffic would deteriorate. I urge the city to continue to make positive, forward-looking decisions that improve the area's viability and quality of life. Good governance should enhance the quality of life of its citizens, not deteriorate from it. Can I leave a copy of this with y'all?
Sure you can. You can just put it right up there on the table, and when we get some extra hands up here, they'll pass it out.
Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, we have Ernest Cooper, followed by Zach Barnett.
Okay. Hi, I'm Garth Cooper, or Ernest Cooper. I own the small, friendly bike shop. So I live and work in the neighborhood. I've been here forever. Some people call me the quote-unquote mayor.
Can you, just for the record, state your address so we have it on file?
1680 Canterbury Street.
Thank you.
I know that the report says that it's okay for the density, but we're already so dense over there. We have like 4,000 people per square mile, where the whole city is like 1,300 based on a 2023 study. So we're 3 times the density of the whole city where we are right now. And it's cool. Like it's a great little neighborhood, but it's really packed. And parking is the big thing. Everybody said parking, right? And you guys are going to hear parking all day long. And you already rolled your eyes at me. You're already tired of hearing about parking. But it's a big deal. And we wouldn't even be going through this if it wasn't who owns the property trying to do it. So adding 5 more homes to this, that could, if you've seen the floor plan, could potentially be 10 more homes easily. But if they add 5 more homes, it's not going to really affect the density numbers, but it is going to affect that little block. If you've ever been there, it's such a small little space. There's 48 parking spots. There's less than 10 businesses. There's a condo. There's a house on every little green little space there ever was. It'd be so much better if somebody would just say that this is a green space. We're going to have a green space with no building on it, and maybe it could be a park, or something like that. That would be so amazing. Once this space is gone, we'll never, ever get it back. And it's nice to look out and not see another building. And it's nice for the people at the John Gorey, and it's nice for the other people in the neighborhood. And you can throw a ball over there if you want, illegally. But you can walk over there, get a couple sand spurs, take them home with you. But we would, like Tom said, we really want positive growth in the neighborhood. I don't want to have to move because my neighborhood's not fun anymore because too many people live there. I want to stay right where I'm at, where I built my whole life, I don't think any of you would want this type of development happening right across the street from you in your backyard, and you would get in line to fight against it. It's too much. Just leave it alone. Let it be green. We don't have to fill up every space, I I don't know what else to say. I don't know how else to make it a point to you guys, but it's too much over there. Please vote accordingly.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll have Zach Barnett, followed by Scott Crowley.
Hello, Zach Burnett, address on file. I'm the owner of Bold Bean Coffee. We've been in the neighborhood since 2011, so going on 14 years now. I think this development across the street from where our cafe and all of our businesses are located will be a negative impact on the community. I think that it will change the culture of the neighborhood in a negative way. All of us business owners in that strip, we have worked very hard at building this community that really supports us, and I think that we're really feeding into and creating a unique spot in our city. I am by no means against densely populated neighborhoods. I think it's a good thing. But I think when you're densely populating a neighborhood, I think you have to plan accordingly. And a big thing on that we've seen all over Jacksonville is parking. I honestly, whether it's in code or not, I don't think that is a fair thing to burden city infrastructure and parking with private homes not having their own parking accordingly. I think that if you're building something, you should have to accommodate for the increase in parking, traffic, safety. I do have a concern with the flood risk that will increase by not having any permeable or enough permeable land in that area. We already get flooding anytime there's a big storm that comes through. And I'm just worried what adding more concrete, more houses in this area is going to do to a flood risk for all of our businesses. We're all generating sales tax, generating tax, contributing to the community. And I think that ensuring the success of these businesses in this area, these established businesses, is going to be much more beneficial for the community than having 5, single-family homes that are going to create all of these problems for everybody who is already living and doing business in the neighborhood. That's all I've got to say. Thank you all for hearing me out.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll have Scott Crowley, followed by Kelly Perkins.
Good afternoon. Scott Crawley, my address should be on file. I own Focus Physical Therapy, which is right there on Stockton Street next to Bold Bean and Food Dog. Been there 20 years. It's been a great place to have new businesses thriving in that corridor where there's older structures and renovated buildings, just like the John Gorey. We provide medical care. We provide physical therapy specifically, so the safety issue for me is the biggest one. I often, probably 3 times a week, walk people across the street. They're on walkers sometimes and crutches and canes. A lot of people walk in able-bodied with a shoulder or a neck injury. They can park down Myra Street a block away. That's not an issue for them. But we have about 50% of our customers that are over 60. And so when they are trying to cross the busy street on Stockton, as you know, it's a place where fire engines and ambulances often are traveling. I think it's 30 miles an hour, but people go pretty fast on that road. There's only one designated crosswalk. I know there are some plans from a letter I got from Donna Deegan's office for another crosswalk there on Myra. But the point is the safety of our patients and other customers of the other businesses is really paramount for me. We have seen accidents in the area. We've seen some injuries. It doesn't happen every week, so we're not whining about parking only. It's really concerned about parking overflow with more townhomes. Those people need to park somewhere. There's no designated parking for those residents of the 5 townhomes, rather. So I'm curious as to whether the developer has proposed any parking needs or parking to address that issue, because there's street parking. That's all there is. There's no reserve parking. I don't have designated spots for any of our customers. There's 2 handicap spots on the block, which is nice. Adding 1 or 2 more doesn't really change a whole lot for the safety. I've heard about maybe 4 or 5 spots on Myra Street being designated on the west side of Myra from Stockton. So again, safety of our customers and our patients is paramount for me because I'm not sure how they're going to be able to get to my office if they have to park a block away. We already have patients that have trouble parking and walking. They'll circle the block, they'll call the office, cancel their appointment. So it affects our business. It's not just an inconvenience. So safety, also the potential negative effect on our businesses in terms of lost revenue. You know, being there 20 years and being a small business growing from 3 employees to 15, and I like to see development. We want to see growth, but we want to do it in a smart way. I hope that the committee will just consider some of these safety issues, which are closely tied to parking, so that we can make the best decision for this area so that we don't go out of business because we can't serve our customers. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, we'll have Kelly Perkins, followed by Howard Kirk, who is here for questions only but opposes. Mr. Kirk, if you change your mind, you can come up too. All right, Ms. Perkins, you're recognized.
Hi, I'm Kelly Perkins, and my address is on file. I just want to say that a prudent man or woman would take a really good look at this project other than just rubber stamping it, because we all know who the developer is. They want to put 5 townhomes on 0.23 acres. My single family home in Avondale was on 0.24 acres. My single home was on 2.24 acres. Yet the developers want to put 5 townhomes. That could actually become 10 if you look closely at the plans. So I want you to do that. I want you to take a really close look at this development plan. I'm not against developing the city of Jacksonville. I love Jacksonville, or I wouldn't live here. So I just want you to look at it. Be sure that you think that this is a good idea to put 5 townhomes that have absolutely no parking on 0.23 acres. I'd also like to say, obviously the parking is an issue, but I really want the city to take some close look at parking all over the place. Good heavens, we worked hard to bring up these stores on Riverside Avenue. God, I know I've put some of you to sleep. Well, I'm sorry, but I really wish you'd pay attention to what I have to say. I am a constituent. We've worked really hard to keep these businesses on that corridor alive and kicking, and they're doing a good job. If we lost them because of this, it'd be awful. That's not what we want. Jacksonville is supposedly a forward-thinking community. I'd like to think that we are. So again, I beg you to take a look at this and don't just rubber stamp it because the developer is a prominent person here in Jacksonville and has done wonderful things for the city. This is not wonderful. 5 townhomes on 0.23 acres is not viable. Show me another piece of property in Riverside where you have that same density, and then we can talk. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then just to confirm, Howard Kirk here for questions only, or would you like to speak? Come on up, you're good. Just state your name and address.
Howard Kirk, address on file. So my business is probably one of the oldest businesses that's still going on in Riverside. I'm chef owner of a restaurant called 13 Gypsies. We're going on 20 years, and I'm going to echo everything else that has already been said. Parking is an issue. The first time that I spoke at the last meeting, I brought up the physical therapy place because that's a big deal. These people have health concerns. So, I opened up my restaurant there because of the historic nature of the neighborhood and the historic nature of the building and the historic nature of the building across the street, which I enjoy looking out of my window and seeing every day. I don't want to look at new development. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Matavina, anything?
Yes, sir.
I believe his time was, yeah, there you got it.
Okay. These are not townhomes. You can only fit 5 of them on there, and the site plan clearly shows 5. The current development rights allow 3 stories, 80% coverage of that lot. So that would be 24,000 square feet of commercial. Probably not reasonable to think that you would build 3 stories there, but you might build 2 stories with commercial underneath and residential above. That would generate almost 800 trips a day, car trips. 5 houses generate 50 trips. So this is a severe reduction. The current zoning doesn't require parking for the potential 3-story building. The proposed zoning doesn't require parking. They're exactly the same. Both of them provide that the on-street parking will cover that. So I'll answer any questions you might have above and beyond that. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the members for questions. Mr. Diamond, do you have any ex parte on this? I know you had to step out for a call. We called for it. You're good to go. All right, Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, sir, I didn't catch your name. But I have a question. Obviously, this has been going on. I see it on the media everywhere. Have you guys had community input? Have you met with the community to see what kind of issues you may be able to address with this proposed project?
Yes, we had 3 meetings with RAP, and then there were meetings between the Homeowners Association and Mrs. Weaver. I was not part of those meetings, but that was part of the settlement between the Homeowners Association and Mrs. Weaver.
Okay, well, I'm assuming you had meetings, but what came out of those meetings?
The RAP had some suggested changes to the houses, and Mrs. Weaver responded to those, and in the end, RAP's not here. I don't think they necessarily are going to come here and show support, but they are not here opposing us.
Okay. Well, to, I guess, anybody that could answer this, but you mentioned earlier that there is no need for on-street parking. Is this part of an overlay or some sort of downtown thing? Because I know that recently we had something with the storage units for the South Bank, which didn't require parking. Is this the same premises for that?
Through the chair to Councilman Arias. So the current PUD for the commercial uses on this site has parking as not required. Parking would be per the existing on-street parking. And then the overlay also has deviations from parking requirements as usually found within Part 6 of the zoning code.
Okay, all right. I'll just listen to more of the colleagues before I give my input on this. Thank you.
All right, we're going to committee members first. So Councilmember Amaro, you're next.
Mr. Chair, Greg, don't go anywhere. Got a question. Question for Ms. Abbey. You said commercial uses. This is clearly not commercial use. And I'm reading in the application when it says row houses area that the VUA may be located partially or entirely in public areas of right-of-way. Proposed VUA located along the western edge of Stockton Street between College and Myra. Do you do this kind of development without planning for parking? And since it's not commercial use, shouldn't the PUD have some kind of condition to address parking?
So through the chair to Councilman Amaro, so when we talk about commercial uses, that's what is currently entitled to that site today. And the current PUD allows for the deviation from parking standards to provide 0 parking, and that parking would be along the vehicle use areas in the right-of-way. So the new PUD that's being proposed today is changing that commercial use to just 5 single-family homes with the same parking criteria that parking would be provided within the VUA of the right-of-way.
In an already congested area.
Correct, yeah. So parking is not changing from what's already entitled today.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Matavino, why isn't parking part of this PUD, given that I presume these properties are going to be sold and prospective buyers would like obviously to be able to park near their homes or in front of their homes or even in their driveways. Why is this part of the development plan?
When this PUD was approved back in 2007, 2006, that was the provision that was allowed for this particular part of the property. The condos themselves have their own parking, but the provision for this part of the property is that on-street parking will satisfy the parking requirements. And so the proposal is to just continue that. I would point to the commercial uses across the street. They don't have any parking for their uses. And if you go around the corner to Myra, most of those houses have no parking. They're parking on the street also. This is not unusual for this neighborhood. This is the character of this neighborhood. When you live in the city, you don't necessarily park in front of your house all the time. When you live in the city, you don't necessarily park in front of a commercial establishment all the time. So this is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and is consistent with the other uses. The folks here who came up and spoke actually provided testimony to the fact that they don't have parking. They rely on the parking on the street, just like this site should.
Through the chair, we're here being asked to make decisions based on competent substantial evidence. And it seems to me that the parking impact would somehow be part of that equation as to whether, at least for me, whether this project should move forward or not. And I just, if I were a prospective buyer, I'd hate to buy $500,000 home and have no place to park my car and hope that there's a space when I get home, or park it 3 blocks down the street. It just doesn't seem like good planning to me in my lay perspective. And I don't know, thank you, through the chair to Ms. Abney, can parking be a condition on this PUD?
Through the chair to Councilman Amaro, council can place conditions on the PUD that they would be required to meet.
All right, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. I had a couple questions. There was a question, and I think this may go to the planning department, Mr. Chair. There was a question that I heard about flood risk. I didn't really see a lot about that in the report or anything there. Is there a specific flood risk that we should be aware of that I'm missing? If this were, obviously it's approved by the department and commission, but could you give me some detail about flood risk?
Through the chair to Councilman Johnson. So in our analysis, we did not see that it was located within any flood zones or within any wetlands. When the development goes through civil plan review, they will have to do drainage reviews, and that drainage or water that is on the site today, they would not be able to push onto other properties. So they will have to do their drainage review through civil plan review.
The other question I had about, and I will say, interestingly enough, I happen to live in Philadelphia in a past life, and in that space there were really, really expensive homes, and people had nowhere to park. They were, $750,000 homes, and it's in the city, and there was nowhere to park because that's what you get from city living. So I certainly understand that. My question as well, they talked about, I heard the questions about across the street. Are there any plans to maybe put in additional handicap parking or anything like that?
Through the chair to Councilman Johnson, not that the department is aware of, that Public Works has any plans for the future to change the parking there. I can't speak to that.
All right. What about the, it said that the techniques should, and site design should take into account traffic impacts. I heard that the testimony of 800 trips a day versus 50 trips a day. What are the current traffic impacts and or the percentage of use on that road? And could you give me some feedback about that and how impactful or not this development will be?
So through the chair to Councilman Johnson, so the transportation review that we received says that Stockton Street, which is a collector facility, between Irene Street and Riverside Avenue is currently operating at 43% capacity, and that the applicant is requesting 5 single-family homes, which could produce 47 daily trips.
So roughly 50 trips would put the capacity still at roughly about 50%.
Correct.
Okay. I may ask other questions. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right, Councilman Gaffney Jr., you were on, then you're off. Are you good? Would you like to speak? If not, we're going to go to our visiting council member. All right, Colonel Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Being someone who is always looking for a way forward that we all could live with, that's some of what I'm going to speak about tonight. When this first came up, I did go to the developers and suggest some options to address the parking issue, and they weren't willing to consider any of those options. I would like to hear from Greg. What were the RAP's suggested changes? Even though they're not here, it would be nice to know what those suggested changes that weren't accepted.
The ones that were not accepted, they all related to the architecture of the houses.
There weren't any other recommended changes?
No.
Okay. Well, my concern...
Not that I recall, Councilman.
Okay.
I don't recall. It was mostly related to the architecture of the houses.
Through the chair. Thank you very much, Greg. Here are the numbers on the parking. There are 20 spaces that, it's my understanding, will be taken offline for a year or more for the construction. There are a total of 35 spaces available and 2 additional handicap spots. You take 20 spaces away from these businesses for a year or more and leave them with 15 regular spots. They have 30 to 35 employees working every day for those 15 spots during construction, not to mention their customers, their patients, everyone else. That's my concern. And I was just looking for a way forward to be able to say, what is the parking plan? So what did I do? I looked at the other end of College Street. There's a brand new development of single-family houses with alleys right between every building. They're very close, but there are alleys between every building. For off. Oh, do you guys want to speak?
TR, the mic's on, so it's kind of an interruption there, buddy. Councilman Miller, you keep going.
Thank you. And there are driveways, if you will, right between every one of those buildings. You can look them up. They're 2962, 2946 College Street. Brand new. They haven't even been fully occupied yet. I think only one of them has been. Perfect example of what could happen with this property. But it's a choice to not do that. And I get it. It's their land. It's Miss Weaver's land. So I get that. But I just know the impact. And I'll give you some more facts. Friday night, almost every one of those 35 plus 2 handicap spots are full on Friday nights. So you take 20 away from that scenario for a full year for construction. What impact is that going to have on those businesses and the physical therapy? 9 total businesses, 1 physical therapist. Saturday, all day, and Saturday night, same scenario. They're all full. The other days and nights, not so much. It's manageable. But you take 20 spots away, the rest of the days and nights will be like that too. So that's my main concern. Not about the development or keeping green space. Love green space, but we do need more housing. We do. It's not affordable housing. It's not workforce housing at the price point that it is, which maybe that would be hitting what we really need better. But again, that's the developer's choice. So I would just like to see some plan during construction for compensation for taking those 20 spots out of use by the existing businesses that rely upon them, and one for 20 years has relied upon them. And then once they're occupied, it'll be less of an impact once they're occupied because there will be maybe 10 cars plus visitors versus 20 being taken offline. So I just like to see and hear of a plan. And if you're wondering why am I so knowledgeable of this, yes, I live right across the street, literally right across the street in a single-family home. And we have our own parking. We have a garage. We have an alley in the back. So we're fortunate. So I see everything. And the flooding, the comment that was made, there's no drainage anywhere in that area. And when it's a regular storm, regular afternoon shower, that whole intersection totally floods where there's a crosswalk. And there's no relief until it evaporates over a few days. So what was said, you take away that green space and it's all built on, all that water, additional water, won't go into the green space, be absorbed. It will all be in addition to what's already on the streets after a storm. So I'm not anti-development. Obviously, I am for it, and I know how important this is, and it's not because I live there. It's just because of these businesses and their customers and the physical therapy patients that I see going back and forth with full parking spaces, and you tell them go 2-3 blocks away, you know, whoever gets there first. They're doing just fine right now. So I don't know what the possible plan could be. The planners and others may know, but short of a different plan for during construction, I just think this is really hurting the businesses and the physical therapy business in there. So that's my input. I think there is a better way forward. I wish everyone were willing to consider some parking options for during construction and then after construction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Chair. This is my second time. You don't want to speak right now? Because I'm going to take just as long as Mr. Miller.
Go for it. Take your time, sir.
Thank you. All right. So I wanted to hear everybody's concerns. And the biggest thing that I heard, which was actually what I was thinking about, was, you know, from my colleague, Councilmember Johnson, was the fact that when you live in bigger cities like New York or Philly or whatever the case is, you're looking at the town, and people want to move there, but they understand that the issue is the parking situation. But those businesses thrive because they depend on walkability, and that's exactly what you have here. The problem that I have here is that today we heard from not 1, 2, or 3, but maybe 4 businesses in that area. And I'm looking at the Google Maps right now, and there's, I don't know, maybe 10 of them there. I'm a business owner as well. So I feel their frustration and their pain. And what Councilmember Miller just spoke about is real facts. That is competent, substantial evidence. Their businesses will suffer during the construction, even post-construction. So I would like to know, what plan of action do you guys have moving forward, like Mr. Miller and Mr. Johnson just talked about, during construction and post, number one. Number two, during construction, I will propose that if there is no parking set aside, because you guys are going to take, I don't know if Mr. Miller is correct on this, but if you're taking 20 parking spaces, that's going to be a detriment to their business. I think you guys should offer complimentary valet services for all the businesses there during construction hours, during construction hour while you're taking up those 20 parking spots. That's one. The second thing is, whenever you guys do have your site open, if we were to approve this, I think that we need to now lock down those parking spots to make them for the businesses particularly. I know right now that that's pretty much open parking, but I want to make sure that we protect the business owners. I really don't care about the developers in this case or the residents, the future residents, the 5 homeowners. I care about the business owners there. So we need to do everything in our power to protect the business owners, because they are the reason why that part of town is thriving. it's 13 Gypsies, the bike shop, Bold Bean. We need to protect them. So whatever it takes to do it tonight, we need to make it happen. So I encourage you guys to please chime in on, and add some restrictions or additions to the PUD. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Johnson.
That was where I was going to, through the chair, to try to see if we could put something aside for parking. Is there any, I know Councilman Miller said that and I was trying to take notes quickly as we were talking, through the chair, Mr. Matavina, is there any other space? Is there any like mitigation parking wise? Because I didn't see a parking plan. Is there something like during construction, and would you be willing to put something together for that?
So there's not room on the site right now. Whether this is developed as a commercial development or it's developed as the 5 houses, that parking is going to be out of commission because the utility hookups are under that parking. So it's going to have to be tore up and rebuilt.
And Mr. Matavina, if I may interrupt for just a moment through the chair, and this is, I just want to make sure, right now, by right, and this may be a legal question, so it may be to Mr. Reingold through the chair, but by right, they can go in and start building commercial construction right now, today, which would net 800 trips. Can you, am I right in reading that and jotting that down?
Through the chair to Councilmember Johnson, I'm going to defer to the planning department because it's their authority to interpret the PUD, but it's my understanding that a commercial use on this site would not need to provide any additional parking as the current PUD is drafted, but I defer to...
I'm not talking about parking though, Mr. Reingold, and to the team. I'm just asking, by right, they can go in and start building this commercial facility right now. Please make
yes.
Sure. I want to make sure.
Through the chair to Councilmember Johnson, yes, that's permitted.
I just want to make sure. Thank you. My answer.
Thank you.
There's no one else in the queue for questions. Let's close this public hearing and bring it back to committee.
All right, let's move the bill.
I have a motion and a second on the bill. Mr. Reingold. Councilman Diamond, you're recognized.
Yeah, anytime there's a bunch of folks who come and speak, and I've been to, I think, every single one of those businesses like 10 times. It's like one of my favorite spots in the city. So I totally understand what they're saying, but I feel like they're due an explanation of my vote, which is this is a down zoning. Right now they can build commercial. That's a great spot. Someone will build commercial there if they don't get houses. That's what will happen if PUD isn't modified. So I'd be doing a backflip with getting a down zone. Parking is totally an issue. Councilman Johnson got it. It happens in every city. I don't think there's any way around that. So I would take the down zone. That's me. If I were a neighbor, take the down zone. So I'll vote yes.
All right, there's no one else in the queue. Councilman Arias.
All right. Thank you, Chair. So yes, 100%. Let's take the down zone. Obviously, you heard from Councilmember Johnson. You heard from the team over here. They could definitely build right now, regardless of what the circumstances are. So this is our chance to put some protections for the businesses, right? So I propose that the developer, 2 things, provide complimentary valet services during construction for the shopping center across the street, not necessarily for the businesses, but for the shopping center. And then the second thing is when post-construction happens, because you guys will be taking up 5, 10, whatever many parking spots, that whatever CAM you guys are charging your tenants, a portion of that goes towards the shopping center across the street to continue to provide valet services for the entirety of the life of your building. Is that something that we could all sort of agree to or figure out how we could legally make this happen?
To the chair, to Councilmember Arias. So I heard the first part about that was during construction that the developer would provide complimentary valet services to the shopping center across the street. The second one, I just want to hear it again, was something post-construction, some sort of funding mechanism. If you can just rephrase that again, please.
So they're going to charge a CAM or a HOA fee. Sorry, I said CAM, but it's HOA fee for that subdivision or whatever we call that. I will propose that a portion of that HOA goes towards the businesses out front due to the parking requirements or lack of parking. So essentially to pay for more complimentary valet services.
Okay. So through the chair to Councilmember Arias, and I guess to the whole committee is, I guess the issue would be instead of forcing them to come up with some way to fund through an HOA fee that maybe the property be required to provide for the valet services even post
that or my second option would have been, which I said earlier, would have been to actually have assigned parking to say these designated spots are for the commercial use only versus just a free for all, and even make some parking spots for the homeowners. Vice versa. I just want to protect both entities, not just the commercial, but also homeowners too. So what can we do to designate parking in those 37 or 35 parking spots? And we cannot because of the...
That question was from Mr. Rangel, is that right?
I see them up there chatting about it, so no, we cannot do that.
Through the chair to Councilmember, and just to the whole committee, look, I hear the concern about the parking issue. The issue is we're going to have a condition or conditions about parking potentially on the bill. Certainly it's something we would need the applicant to be agreeable to. If there's some form of condition, it might make sense to hear from the applicant whether they are agreeable to some form of parking condition, whether it's some sort of valet service or the like. We may be able to sort of work with them on coming up with some conditions that may be satisfactory.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring it home very quick. Okay. During construction, valet services for the businesses. Post-construction, designated parking spots for the businesses. That's what I'm asking for from the applicant, and also if we could even do that legally through the city, designate parking spots post-construction.
And you said legally designated for the businesses. So are you talking about the ones on the west side of the street in front of the homes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So there are going to be 5 homes. I'm assuming every house has, usually a house will have about 1.5 cars, especially a house of that size. So if we designate 8 spots for the homes out of the 37 spots, we know that 28 of them, or whatever the case is, will be for the businesses, for that whole little business district right there.
If I may, through the chair to the planning department, I would just like, because they're the expertise on the parking calculations, is there a parking calculation or formula that works out with the 5 homes, how many spaces that would take up?
Through the chair to Councilman Arias, so within the zoning code for a single-family home, a property is required to provide 2 parking spaces. So if we were going by the normal zoning code, 5 single-family homes would generate or need 10 parking spaces.
But these are, I mean, they said, or through the chair, they said earlier, these are not townhomes, but they are townhomes essentially. What's the square footage on these guys? I'm looking, but I can't find it. Is it going to be like 1,500, 1,800 square feet? And they're all right next to each other, like a townhouse would?
To the chair, they're not connected, so we wouldn't classify them as townhouses. They're detached single-family homes.
Okay.
But regardless of the size of the structure, the zoning code for one single-family home requires 2 parking spaces.
Sure. All right, so you're looking at 10 out of the 37. So is that something that the applicant or, first of all, through the chair to the applicant, is that something that you guys would be amenable to during construction, having some sort of relief for the business owners when it comes to valet services, at the very least during the evening hours and then the weekends?
Through the chair, the practicality of doing that is extremely difficult, trying to deal with the different hours of the different businesses and nail that down. The applicant would be willing to consider a condition that says that to the extent possible, we will minimize the impact on parking. For instance, if we do have to tear up all of those spaces to provide utility services to get to the utilities, we don't have to tear up all of it at one time. Perhaps we could tear up, 5 spaces and do that section, then put those spaces back and then do the next section. But other than that, above and beyond that, and in terms of a continuing requirement for the homeowners association to provide services, and that's not something we would accept.
Thank you. What about so I want to see if we can do the designating parking spots for the commercial uses post-construction. Can we legally do that?
Again, there's sort of two aspects of that. There's sort of, is the applicant willing to agree to something like that?
This has nothing to do with the applicant. This is our city roads. Can we legally designate parking spots for the commercial spaces?
Okay, so let me dive into that issue. First, what I'm hearing from you then is that's really not a condition of the PUD. That's just something that you want to sort of impose generally as these parking spots.
I'm not asking the applicant for that. We'll do it if we legally can do it. So can we legally do that?
Certainly, we could talk to Public Works and Right of Way about that. I don't know if we're going to have an answer right here on how that issue would be addressed from a zoning standpoint.
Okay. Well, just to continue moving the ball forward, I see more people in the queue, so I'll wait for them. Thank you.
Councilman Amaro, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I forgot what's on the queue. Since the amendment didn't move forward, I thought the second half of the amendment was kind of difficult for the applicant. We drew the analogy to cities like Philadelphia and places like that. And in those urban spaces, I get it. I don't think College in Stockton is to that level, if you will. I feel the pain. I've driven this road. I know what it's like. I don't live there, but I've driven it. I know what it's like. And I can't believe, and this is one of those things where you get to the crossroads of property rights and community rights, but I can't believe that this PUD should move forward without some parking requirement. My challenge is, what is the verbiage, what is the language to require something, some kind of parking concession? More so for the potential buyers of these 5 properties, which would mitigate whatever impact there is on the rest of the community. And I don't know what that is my question through the chair to planning department. Is there some kind of framing language that could be created to make that a PUD condition, if you will? And I know it's probably going to have impact on site plans and all that, but still, is there a language that can? That's my question.
Through the chair to Councilman Amaro, I mean, you could do a condition that says that they have to provide parking on site, and the developer will have to figure out the site plan to meet that. It's the only thing I can think of is to provide parking off-site would have to be on the site itself, and whether that's through a parking garage or on-site.
Thank you. Through the chair, did the Arias proposal, is it still floating, or is it? Oh, well, I'm going to move an amendment as a condition to the PUD that the developer provide parking for the 5 property owners going forth as a way of mitigating impact on the neighborhood. And that's my motion. If I get a second, we'll discuss it, and we'll go from there and see what the applicant has to say.
All right. So, planning department, if the code requires a single-family home to have 2 parking spaces, where are they putting the parking spaces now?
Through the chair, the PUD is asking to be exempt from the parking requirements.
I've done my homework. All right, Councilmember Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess this will be responsive to the Amaro amendment and to my colleague, Councilman Arias, and to Colonel Miller. By the way, can I get Captain Diamond now? Is that allowed? Especially when Jimmy's around, when any of the Navy guys are around. I'm tracking. I suspect if the applicant up here, he's going to say that if you do this parking requirement, it blows up his site plan and he can't do it. That's my best guess. So he's going to say no. But take your shot, right? And I understand what Councilman Arias is trying to do. I have a little hesitancy about HOAs and burdening one, but whatever. It looks like that one is dead for a minute. But I agree that we can come back and we can write a bill that restricts parking. I mean, the beaches do it all the time. And we secure parking in different ways for businesses. And we really haven't implemented that much in the Riverside-Avondale area. And obviously, it's Jimmy Peluso's purview to kind of go out there and start working on that stuff. But I would point you towards Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach, where there's no parking, tons of businesses that are thriving. And so they figured out this balance and how to do this and how to get there. And so I do think it's something we should look into. And I want to be helpful, but I do like the down zone. And so I don't want to lose that. And I suspect the applicant is going to say no to most of these things.
Councilmember Johnson.
Before we vote on this, I have a question. I don't understand how we can put in a parking requirement, even though I understand there's a waiver for parking in this space, but are we able to go and put in a parking requirement when there is no parking requirement in the current commercial space where it's permitted by right? Right? I get we're saying that, but again, we're down zoning and we're going to a limited use. And it just seems, and the reason I ask this is not about the applicability. What I'm worried about, and I do not like to use that term worry, what I am concerned about somewhat is if the applicant comes back, or if we make the decision to say you must do this, and it gives the applicant, to me, additional standing in a court of law, and we may end up in court. And I'd like to figure out a way around that. That's why I'm asking these questions. So through the chair, can you help me? It seems a little confusing because there is no parking allowed by right. Excuse me, there's no parking mandated by right. That's what I mean. Yeah. So by downzoning, I guess this is more of a legal question. Would that put us in legal jeopardy? So that's the main question. If we do approve this and put some kind of condition in there where it requires parking, there is a by right way for us to say, or they can go in and say, we had this by right and could have done this and didn't have to put in as many spaces, but now you've downzoned, now we're going to go to court. Is there some legal standing there? Can you help me with that, please?
There are two components to that question. So first off, the amendment out right now is, and there was a second, was the developer shall provide the parking for the homes on the subject property. So issue number one, the developer can agree or not agree with that condition. The developer does not agree with that condition. My recommendation would be not to move forward with that condition because it wasn't consented to. Now, sort of process-wise now, the developers basically said what they're willing to live with is a condition that says, to the extent possible, the developer shall minimize the impacts on parking. So my thought process is this committee can either adopt a condition that the developer agrees to, or if you feel like the parking issue just can't be overcome and you've heard enough facts about substantial competent evidence from your planning department and the folks who spoke about parking, you could move an amendment to deny. So I think those would be, to address the issues that have been raised today, those would be your two best options.
Are you going to answer through the chair, my court question? There's always, anybody can sue, we all know that. Is there legal standing if we do this based on the fact of where we are now? I appreciate the insight, but that's my main question.
So one of the challenges that, well, I don't want to speak on behalf of the applicant. If there was a condition imposed that the developer did not agree to, that would be a position for them to challenge us on the matter. If we imposed a condition and they agreed to it, then that issue is taken off the table.
All right, before I go to Councilmember Arias, we are in the posture of there was an amendment made to require them to provide 2 parking spaces, right? So is that what we're debating? Mr. Rangel, just for proper posture.
Yeah, I heard the developer shall provide for parking for the homes on the single-family property, on the subject property, but I certainly defer to the motion maker.
Close enough. Once we get them to the podium, we'll see if that chalks. All right, Councilmember Arias.
Just for clarity, through the chair, that is exactly what I was suggesting as a condition to the PUD. And again, the whole purpose is to mitigate whatever impact there is in the surrounding area. Whether it flies or not, I get that. But after discussion, we'll have TR or Greg come up and have their 2 cents.
All right, let's go to Councilmember Arias, and then Mr. Miller, and then if you're caught up, Mr. Peluso.
All right, thank you, Chair. So I second Mr. Amaro's amendment only for conversations, but I definitely do not support it because, like I said earlier, I don't really, it sounds bad, but I'm going to say how it is. I don't care about the future homeowners there. I care about the businesses right now that are there, that have been there for over 20 years. So I don't need protection for the homeowners to have parking spots. I need protections for the businesses to have their guaranteed parking spots. So on the contrary, I would like to have, which is why, as Mr. Diamond just stated, we could definitely figure out a way to do something similar to the beaches where, they, and I'm not saying this is a solution, but maybe even create pay by toll, pay by plate, whatever parking spots, so that now if there's a homeowner that wants to use that spot and they're going to be there for 10 hours because they're going to sleep there that night, then they're going to pay a hefty fee. So maybe we designate a certain amount of parking spots for pay by plate, whatever the case is, but I want protection for the businesses, not the homeowners. So I think this is something that we don't have to burden the developer on because ultimately they don't have a say in this matter. Like I said, this is more of a legislative process that we're going to go through at some point, and we could create some sort of bill for that. So I would be open to downzoning this, like we said, or down use, whatever the case is, letting the developer build their 5 single-family homes, and us as council members protect the neighborhood by making sure that we designate parking spots for the commercial uses there. Whether Mr. Peluso could carry that at some point, but that's my thought. And so I do not support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll withdraw it, but I think you misunderstood the purpose of the amendment.
Can you speak through the chair, Mr.
Through the chair. The parking problem is coming from the development. If you create parking for the development, then there won't be a problem in the neighborhood. That was the whole purpose of that. Now, I'm fine either way. In fact, I'm ready to vote on this thing and move forward. But so that was the intent of that, and that would have benefited the businesses as well as the community. So I think you missed the logic on that.
All right, and Mr. Rangel, for the record, I think Mr. Amaro withdrew his amendment. Does that satisfy you? Do we have to vote on that or no? No. Okay. All right. Colonel Miller, you're out of the queue. You saving the landing for the district councilman. Welcome, Mr. Jimmy Peluso, to the party. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, I got a few texts and calls being like, hey, were you coming to LUZ? I was actually running over to the library, so I figured I would swing by. Very familiar with this property, very familiar with this project, very familiar with the commercial area. In fact, the building where most of these businesses are located is owned by Oliver Bearcat, former DIA board chair. So he's very familiar with this issue as well, and has been speaking with the the business owners. So one of the things that we had discussed was, for one, as much as I do appreciate the idea of some kind of parking permit system, this is a historical overlay in a historical district. There's a lot of different criteria when it comes to parking minimums and when it comes to how we can kind of do things in a district that's been designated as a historic district. Same thing with Springfield. It's just parking is one of the biggest issues that we face. Always will be, always has been, and it's just one of those things that, you know, we can best mitigate as we can. All that to say, this property was always zoned to have additional homes here. When the original property owner, when the Weavers purchased the property, it was always designated that there would be homes there, that there would be possible commercial on the bottom and more stuff on, and then housing on top. So that was the original design, I think, in the mid-2000s when they purchased the property. Because of the economy at the time, we had the 2008 crash. They just didn't develop that side, but it was always a part of the design way back when. So I just want to kind of put that out there. So this could have been done 12 years ago, and we probably would have had the same issue. It sounds like with the amendment being withdrawn, I'm very favorable to that. You know, this is just one of those things where, as I've been talking with certain members in the community, we've talked about maybe Myra, the road to the north of Stockton, that we could allow for more parking, because right now there's signs that say no parking. And so that's not actually anything that there's no history as to why those no parking signs were there. Those could be opened up, and you could have more parking there. When it comes to the commercial area, I live very close to there, probably not as close as Councilmember Miller. It's a joke because he literally lives there. But you'll see that, you probably won't see massive parking issues except for on the weekends, and that's mainly probably going to be on Saturday. Other than that, you don't have any late night establishments, which is kind of nice. So the parking issues can be a little bit of an issue on certain days at certain hours, but for the most part, when folks are coming home at 5, 6 o'clock, it's not going to drain a ton of parking spaces and hurt the businesses in a way that I think is going to be super, super detrimental. All that to say, it sounds like you guys are about to vote. If you have any questions or concerns or want to talk about anything that I might have been privy to, because I have been talking about this project for nearly a year now, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, we did close the public hearing, so are you in favor of the development?
Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say if I'm in favor of it? This is a property that this project was always available to be done on. I've worked with RAP, I've worked with business owners, I've worked with property owners. It's one of those things where what the Weaver family has done for the community, especially the John Gorey, bringing that property back from being completely barren to what it is now. I'm comfortable with having 5 homes there. We've talked about different options with the developer in the past, things that I think could have been a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it's something that we settled on, and it's doable.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greg, would you mind coming back up through the chair? Are you familiar with the development on the other end of College that I referred to earlier by new single-family homes on College Street?
No, I'm not familiar with it, no.
I've got them pulled up right on my screen right now. Brand new single-family homes with nice driveways in between the buildings. They're very close, but nice driveways right on College Street, same street we're talking about. So I hear the discussions back and forth about what could be, might be, it could be worse. These are already built on the same street. And I just wanted to know, what is the current, with 5 on the property through the chair, what is the current distance between each one of those single-family homes?
Councilman, your site planning, and it's a little bit out of your expertise, in my opinion. What I would tell you is that, yes, we can put driveways in. We just have to remove the parking spaces so they can get to their driveways.
Yeah. But not all 20 of them.
It'd be substantially.
Yeah.
It'd be just about all of them. Yes, sir. It'd be a whole lot worse than 5 cars parking there.
Okay. I'm looking at this development right down the street, and that's not the case. There's on-street parking, and I get it. I get where we're going here. So just wanted to try to come up with a solution, and it's there if we all want to. But I think through the chair, the main concern is there's an insistence that it be 5 single-family homes, right?
That's correct. or it can be what it is
we
now.
can't go to 4 or go to 3 to allow for parking. It has to be 5.
Correct.
That's what we're talking about. Has to be 5. So the parking concerns for the folks across the street, not important. Okay, like I said when I started, my first time I talked, I'm always looking to try to find a way forward we all can live with. I just feel bad for the businesses going forward if this goes through as it is right now, and that's all I'll say. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Councilman Arias.
All right, thank you, sir. I will move this forward now. Through the chair to the developer, if you don't mind coming up here, please. All right, earlier you stated the fact of working with the community to work on 5 spots at a time, do your construction, move on to the next, but before you move on, you bring those spots back up. Is that something that you're willing to put on writing to make sure that we add this to the this legislation?
We are willing to, yes, minimize to the extent practical the impact on the parking during the construction time frame. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I also get a commitment from you guys saying that should we proceed with a future some sort of legislation where we designate parking spots for the commercial businesses there, right? That you guys will work with the applicable departments and cooperate to ensure that this legislation goes through and not that you guys fight it because your residents are fighting it. So can we have some sort of commitment on your end saying that you will work with us and not get in our way of potentially creating some designated parking for the businesses?
So the owner certainly would cooperate, although I don't think it would require the owner's cooperation. It's city-owned property, I think, as council has said, and so it's up to the city to make that decision. We can't bind future homeowners.
Okay. So I guess can we add this to the conditions that they're going to work on 5 spots, no more than 5 spots at a time, and then before they work on the next 5 spots, they're going to repair those 5 spots? Yes, sir. Through the chair.
Through the chair. We can't commit to anything specific at this time. There has to be construction sequencing. We have to deal with JEA. We can't commit to 5 spots.
Well, then, through the chair, I feel that you guys could probably do 10 or 12 at one time. Then that defeats the purpose of you're willing to work with the community. So I'm sure you guys have vetted this project extensively, and you have an idea of what you're going to have to take up right away. So you should have some spots at least committed, if that's the case.
Again, we can't commit to a specific number of spots at this time.
I mean, and I can't commit to a yes vote, and I think some of my colleagues won't either.
Well,
so you have the neighbors right here. They want reassurances. Can you give them reassurances? The way this works is not about the developer or a project. This is about working with the community. And if you're telling us no, 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 then why should we say yes to you? Work with the neighbors, work with us, so we could easily show our face to the neighbors. That's all I'm asking. You could easily put commercial if you want, but the fact of the matter is you're not going to. Otherwise, you would have a long time ago. So I'll call your bluff on that if that's the case. Can you commit to working with the neighbors on this and designating an X amount of parking spots? Whether it's 5 or 6, designate a number. I don't really care what it is. At least we could hold you guys accountable to it.
no, I cannot commit to a specific number of parking spots at this time. Thank you.
All right, no one else in the queue. We're ready to vote, right?
Well,
the amendment's been withdrawn.
Amendment's been withdrawn, so we have a motion and second. I'm just going to say I've sensed some frustration from this committee about the parking issue and that those issues haven't been addressed. If there is a desire to deny this bill, I would recommend that you move an amendment to deny. But if you are willing to go forward with some parking issues, I have heard from the applicant that there would be an appropriate amendment to the extent practicable that they would work to minimize the parking impacts.
I'm happy to put it on the board, and if we need to reconsider it to change it to an amend to deny, then we can do that. I was almost there. Councilman Gaffney Jr., you're recognized, sir. Go for it.
This is a tough one, and through the chair. I think I'm gonna support this tonight, and let me be honest. Let me explain why. Because right now, this don't have to come before a council. If they just build some type of commercial or residential, and they could build without the parking. I think what need to happen is after we vote tonight, some type of legislation come back and we could address parking. If that's your, Jimmy, if you want to do that, that's totally up to you. I don't think my colleagues have a desire to address parking tonight, but like my biggest thing right now, they could build without coming to us, and they could build commercial and they could put residential. My hearts go out to Councilman Miller. You stay right across the street. I'm not sure what's a happy medium right now. My biggest thing is right now, what I'm stuck on is that they could build without us right now, and we still gonna have the same issue. That's the only thing I'm stuck on right now. Remove tonight out the way. They could go tomorrow and start building, and we go have the same pretty much issues. So I just wanted to put that on record. And then the councilman, he kind of agreed with this development. So I think I'm gonna support this bill moving forward.
Councilman Diamond, you're recognized.
Just quickly, we did have a low-hanging fruit amendment, which I think will have the support of the applicant, which was to add a condition to the PUD that says, to the extent practical, they will try and reduce the impact of parking on the neighborhood. So I would make that amendment to the PUD.
We have a motion second on that amendment. I think it was explained to all of our satisfaction by the council members. So all in favor of that amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The amendment carries. Would you agree to that? Well, they proposed it. Is that good enough for you, Dylan? Okay. All right. Now I'll entertain a motion on the bill as amended. I have a motion second on the bill as amended. I've known in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2024-0539 as amended. Item number 3, 2025-0091. Open the public hearing. No speaker cards. We'll continue the public hearing till 7:15:25. Item number 4, 2025-0130 is deferred. Item number 5, 2025-0131. Councilman Peluso, I think some of your constituents were trying to get someone's attention up here. Item 5 was 2025-0131. That item is deferred. Item number 6, 2025-0172. That item is deferred. Item 7, 2025-0173. That item is deferred. Item 8, 2025-0176. Open the public hearing. No speaker cards. We'll continue that public hearing until 7:15:25. Item 9, 2025-0177. Council members, please clear any ex parte communication you may have. In your district, we're on item 9, 2025-0177. So we'll call on the district council member, Councilmember Gaffney Jr.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I rise to declare ex parte. I did meet with Ms. Christian Reed. We had several meetings, and we also spoke as recently as last week about this development. Make sure things get filed with legislative services.
Thank you so much. Now that that's out of the way, let's open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you. This is conventional rezoning ordinance 2025-0177, which is seeking to rezone approximately 8.4 acres of land from residential low density 60 to residential low density 40 to develop the property with single family homes. The subject property is located along Gillespie Avenue, which is just south of New Berlin Road. The proposed development will be required to connect to JEA utilities for water and sewer in order to achieve the minimum lot sizes of the RLD 40 zoning district. Staff finds that the single-family residential subdivision is appropriate in this location and compatible with surrounding uses. There have been recent rezonings which have reduced lot sizes from 60 to 40, 40-foot wide lots and 50-foot wide lots within the immediate area. The properties that are directly south of the subject property was rezoned to RLD 50 in 2010, and then another parcel was rezoned to RLD 40 back in 2024. Staff has reviewed the request and finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the comp plan with the existing land use category of low-density residential. The proposed rezoning furthers the goals and objectives of the comp plan by encouraging residential infill developments. So because of these reasons and those in the staff report, we are forwarding a recommendation of approval. Application was heard by Planning Commission on June 5th, where there were no speakers in opposition and little discussion, and they voted unanimously for approval.
Thank you very much. We'll go to our speaker cards. We have Kristen Reed and one other, Steve Jarrett, questions only in support.
Good evening. Thank you. Kristen Reed. My address is 12740 Grand Bay Parkway West, Suite 2350, Jacksonville, Florida 32258. Thank you for your time this evening. This request is to rezone approximately 8.4 acres located between Gillespie Avenue and Camden Road and south of New Berlin from RLD 60 to RLD 40. The request is consistent and compatible with the area and the development trends of the area, especially considering the RLD 50 and RLD 40 directly to the south. The city's also invested in public infrastructure and utilities in this area in a manner that can support infill development of this nature. These investments include things such as sidewalks, the public elementary school to the south that's within walking distance, access to centralized water and sewer, and there's a community center to the west, the Ocean Way Community Center and Pool, also within walking distance. So for those reasons, the proposed rezoning is consistent and compatible, and the area has capacity to serve this development. As Councilman Gaffney indicated in an ex parte, we've had conversations with him about this and as well with community members. So we've been working with them through the process, and no one's speaking in opposition. As presented by Ms. Abney, the staff reviewed the rezoning, finds that it is consistent with the criteria, and recommends approval. Planning Commission also unanimously voted to approve. So I appreciate your consideration tonight, and I'm here if you have questions.
Thank you very much. And again, we had one other speaker, which was Steve Jarrett, here in support for questions only. There's no one in the queue, so let's close the public hearing and bring it back to committee. I have a motion and a second on the bill. I have no one in the queue. Please open the ballot and record your vote.
Six yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved 2025-0177. Moving on to item 10, 2025-0215. Council members, any ex parte you have now would be the time. Seeing none, let's open the public hearing. Do we need a staff report for the sub and review? All right, do we have any cards? All right, let's close the public hearing and move the substitute, somebody. I have a motion and a second on the substitute. If we don't need an explanation, I'm happy to call for the vote, but Mr. Reingold is ready.
Yep. The substitute will change the subject property description and attach a revised legal description dated June 9, 2025, and attach a revised Exhibit 2, which is the Plan Department map. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
All right, thank you for that. All in favor of the substitute, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Substitute passes. We have a motion to re-refer the bill as substitute. No one's in the queue. Please open the ballot and record your vote.
Six yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved the substitute and re-refer of 2025-0215. Item number 11, 2025-0242 is deferred. Item 12, 2025-0243 is deferred. Item 13, 2025-0247 is deferred. Item 14, 2025-0267 is deferred. Item 15, 2025-0268 is deferred. Item 16, 2025-0305. Let's open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you. Ordinance 2025-305 is a small-scale land use amendment proposing an amendment from agriculture to community general commercial. This is in the rural development area. This is approximately 4.09 acres located on the north side of Normandy Boulevard. This portion of Normandy Boulevard is an FDOT principal arterial roadway, and this is also just west of Yellow Water Road, a collector roadway. The site abuts CGC land use on the east, and this would expand the commercial land use node on Normandy Boulevard and Yellow Water. North, south, and west of the site are single-family homes with the loblolly mitigation preserve further north and west of the site. The larger area surrounding the amendment site along this section of Normandy Boulevard is trending towards suburban expansion, primarily with residential development. The commercial node would contribute with nearby commercial services to the residential areas. We found this amendment to be a logical extension of the abutting CGC and the larger commercial node that is currently existing at the corner of Normandy and Yellowwater Road. This is a preferred location of the CGC land use along a principal arterial roadway, and the proposed CGC will facilitate commercial development to serve existing and planned residential development in the area. We forward a recommendation of approval as outlined in the staff report. On June 5th, 2025, at the Planning Commission meeting, there was one person that voiced concerns over the general direction of development in the area and the traffic capacity of the area. The Planning Commission moved forward and recommended unanimously for approval.
All right, thank you very much. One speaker card, Mr. Michael Sittner.
Michael Sittner, 1 Independent Drive, Suite 1200, on behalf of the applicant. The property is adjacent to Circle K and Dollar General on Normandy Boulevard out on the west side in District 12. On the other side of those two commercial properties, we actually rezoned and had a land use amendment to CGC and a PUD, a commercial PUD, and those were approved in 2023 under ordinances 783 and 784. And so our clients have actually just secured the property on the other side of those two established commercial properties and are looking to do general commercial uses along Normandy. With that, I'm happy to stand by for questions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. That is our only speaker card, so let's close the public hearing and bring this back to committee. I have a motion and a second on the bill. I have no one in the queue. Please open the ballot and record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-0305. Moving on to item 17, 2025-0306. Council members, if you have any ex parte, now would be the time. Seeing none, let's open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you. This is the companion conventional rezoning, ordinance 2025-0306, seeking to rezone the same 4 acres of land from agriculture to CCG1 in order to develop the property with commercial uses to accommodate an area that's growing with residential uses. Staff has reviewed the request and finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the comp plan with the approved land use category of CGC, which is a category that's intended to provide for a wide variety of retail goods and services, which will serve a large area of the city. We find it furthers the goals and objectives of the comp plan by accommodating growth and encouraging and facilitating new infill development, again, to address the needs of the city's residents. The subject property is located on the north side of Normandy Boulevard, which at this portion is a 2-lane FDOT principal arterial roadway. Normandy Boulevard in recent years has experienced a shift in development rights with several rezonings from agriculture type developments to allow for commercial uses and then a wider variety of residential developments. To the east of the subject site are properties that are zoned for commercial uses. This is at the intersection of Yellowwater Road and Normandy Boulevard. We find the rezoning to CCG1 will be consistent and compatible with surrounding uses. So because of these reasons and those in the staff report, we are forwarding a recommendation of approval. The application was heard by Planning Commission on June 5th, where there was one speaker in opposition with concerns related to traffic that would be generated along Normandy Boulevard from the commercial uses and the capacity. Staff explained that this section of Normandy Boulevard is currently operating at 57% capacity, and the Planning Commission had no concerns after that, and they voted unanimously for approval.
All right, thank you very much. One speaker card, Mr. Michael Sittner.
Michael Sittner, 1 Independent Drive, Suite 1200. I'll stand behind the staff report and stand by for questions. Thank you.
All right, sir. No other speaker cards. Let's close the public hearing and bring this back to committee. I have a motion and a second on the bill. No one in the queue. Please open the ballot and record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-0306, bringing up item 18, 2025-0307. Let's open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you. This is ordinance 2025-307. This is a large-scale transmittal round land use amendment. The proposal is to go from agriculture and rural residential in the rural area to low-density residential in the suburban area. It is approximately 190.29 acres. This application, as indicated, will include the extension of the suburban boundary over the project site. You will not see a companion zoning yet, as this is transmittal round. The PUD rezoning will be a companion with the adoption round of the land use amendment, which is the second set of hearings that this will come back for after state review, if council so chooses to transmit this application. This is located on the west side of Yellow Water Road, a collector roadway, and north of Normandy Boulevard, an FDOT principal arterial roadway, south of Wells Road, a local roadway. So this is just north of the previous application that we just heard for the commercial uses. The site consists of 12 parcels in the rural area. 160 acres are in the ag land use, and 30 acres are in the RR, rural residential land use. The area immediately surrounding the site is predominantly residential, agriculture, and park and preserve uses, with Loblolly Park and Mitigation Bank abutting the property on the west, and Yellowwater Trailhead Park to the north, and a commercial node south of the area along Normandy Boulevard that includes a gas station, storage, and other small retail and service type uses. Through a series of land use amendments over the last 20 years, the properties east and south of the site have transitioned from rural agriculture character area to low-density suburban character area. The pattern of development in the area has changed to accommodate suburban neighborhoods. If you look at the Planning Department report on page 29 and 30, you'll get a closer view of the area and the immediate surrounding uses to look at those suburban uses and how they've extended out to the west, showing the development pattern. Abutting east of the site, in 2006, there was the approved Bridle Creek PUD that allows over 1,200 units, 90 of those townhomes, creating a more suburban character on this site. South and southwest of the site across Normandy Boulevard in 2021 approved the Trails PUD. This is over 3,200 acres entitled for 6,500 dwelling units. 2 communities in this area have been clustered and built with a suburban character. We've got the commercial node along Normandy. Recently, there's a pending land use change for 5 acres to LDR north and east of the site. Another land use change just west of the site to RPI, Saddlebrook Landing, just east of the site in 2018. You've got the Equestrian and Aquatic Center and Cecil Field Conservation Center. Far east of the site, 301 Villages multi-use area. And the site does include Category 2 wetlands on the northern portion of the development site. This was reviewed by the Waterways Commission last week on June 12th, and it was unanimously approved. In summary, the suburban area extension is congruent with the existing and proposed development typology of the area. The larger area surrounding the amendment site along this section is trending towards suburban expansion. This helps accommodate future growth and housing needs. DOT does have future plans to widen this portion of Normandy Boulevard. Development will use JEA Central Water and Sewer Services, and it's consistent with the development pattern of the area. We forward a recommendation of approval as outlined in the staff report. On June 5th, at the Planning Commission meeting, there were several members of the public voicing concerns over the loss of agricultural lands and development with urban sprawl, as well as environmental concerns such as the wildlife, wetlands, and flooding, and school capacity. The Planning Commission discussed those concerns and forward a unanimous recommendation of approval.
All right, thank you very much. Let's start with our speaker cards. We have several, so I believe that's probably the group in the back. If you are speaking, if you could make your way a little closer to the front, I'd appreciate that. And we'll start with our applicant, Ms. Cindy Trimmer.
Thank you so much. Cindy Trimmer, 1 Independent Drive, Suite 1200 on behalf of the applicant. This is a project we started back in 2023. At the time, we had 37 acres, which was the small rectangular parcel at the bottom of this assemblage. We got into the public hearings. A lot of folks came out and expressed concerns. And working with the planning department, they raised some questions and basically asked us, go back, do more diligence, see if you can get more land in this assemblage, and let's see if it's something we can all get behind. So we spent the last 2 years working on that. The assemblage has grown from the original 37 acres to now more than 190 acres, consuming most of the western side of Yellow Water just south of Wells. So why are we so passionate about this, and why do people keep coming back looking at this quadrant? If you look at your first map, it's a really interesting area just west of Cecil, where a lot of the land surrounding this area is conservation, mitigation bank, loblolly banks. We're just west, I said, of Cecil. That is an area that's 4,500 acres, where we're having more than $1.3 billion invested in this area to establish 31 million feet of space that are going to generate thousands of jobs. And these folks need somewhere to live. So when we start to look at the map around Cecil and look at where we can do single-family subdivision, you realize there's not a lot of options. So if you switch over to page 4 and 5, that outlines where we have industrial sanctuary around Cecil Commerce Center. In the industrial sanctuary, you cannot do residential development. So all of that area right around Cecil is off the table for residential. If you look onto page 5, we show the line between the suburban character area, where you're allowed to do 7 units an acre for single family, and the rural character area, where you're limited to 2. There's very little area outside that suburban character area that's not taken up by the industrial sanctuary. So there's very little area right here without extending that character area where you can unlock residential development. If you look on page 6, you start to see the mix of land uses. You heard staff recommend or reference the entitlement for the single-family subdivision that's just east of Yellow Water. It's designated rural residential, but if you get into the details of that PUD is not a rural plan unit development. It allows for 40, 50, 60-foot lots, townhomes, and commercial use. So that PUD in and of itself already is starting to bring that suburban character over to this side of town. And Paul Hardin's here, you can ask him questions, but he's got some land use amendments to also do 7 units an acre on the east side of Yellow Water. We've been approached by different people over time and looked at this area of town, and there's been a couple things that prevented anyone being able to unlock the residential density here. The first one is that hard break between the suburban character area and the rural character area. The other one is the fact that utilities at this time do not run up Yellow Water. In the intervening time since we started this process, we've really advanced the diligence. We have quotes and we understand what it would take to extend utilities up Yellow Water, and this developer is prepared to make that investment to run water and sewer up Yellow Water to allow for the additional density. We also heard a lot of concerns in the initial rounds of hearing regarding the wetlands and wildlife in this area. With the additional acreage, we hired Terracon and did a full wetland wildlife study of the area. We're very clear on where the uplands are versus the protected wetlands. When we came to waterways, we had a lot of conversation about the most sensitive of those wetlands in the northern area and have committed to clustering all development outside of the sensitive areas. We had a wildlife study as well. There was a eagle's nest more than a half of a mile away identified, but there was nothing in this immediate quadrant for development that would impede being able to move forward. I did learn something about a snake you have to let continue on if you find it during construction, but nothing that would prevent them from actually doing it. I know there's a lot of folks here. We've been talking to them throughout this process, and I think at a certain point we've just reached a point where this is a large-scale land use amendment. We're going to come back with a PUD, assuming everything moves forward through the state agencies. And at that point, we'll have a site plan where we can work with individual owners and neighbors that are still in that area to talk about buffers and how to address any specific concerns. But at this time, we're asking for approval to extend the suburban character area as detailed on page 8 of the packet I handed out, and to allow the low-density residential to move forward with transmission. We'll stand forward for questions. Thanks.
All right, thank you. We'll go next to Michael Rath, followed by Carl Heckwine.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing our statements. My name is Michael Rath. I live at 14913 Bell Estates Road. We're asking that you guys would vote no on 25307. There are already about 9,000 approved homes in Maxville. I moved there about 40 years ago and raised my family, and I'm raising my grandchildren there now. All the roads out there right now are 2-lane roads. Just going to work in the morning's a nightmare. Normandy's not planned to be widened for several years. It's already horrible. All the land that has not been rezoned in that area has signs in front of it. So 99% of the area out there is being rezoned. We live on this 190 acres they're talking about, which is part of the Baldwin watershed. I don't know if you've heard of it. The 6,000 acres Loblolly Park behind us, the preserve that the city owns, that's where all this water comes from. When it floods out there, I know they say that they can mitigate the flooding, but I've lived there 40 years. The creeks that run through there will get 75 to 100 yards wide when it rains really bad. Myself and all my neighbors live there. If you vote this, then we're not going to be able to afford to live there. It's a small area. We've all lived there for generations. We have nowhere to go. We can't start over. I'm 61 years old. I don't have a big pension. We can't afford lawyers to fight this. They tried for it last year. Luckily, it was deferred to this year. Hopefully, you'll vote no on it. 90% of Maxville's already been rezoned. Right across Yellowwater from where we are has 1,500 apartments and townhomes fixing to be built. They've already started that. Okay? We're asking, please be our advocate. Like I said, we don't have money to hire anybody. The people you see behind me are some of the people that live there. I can't leave and move. I can't afford to do that. This is a small area, and it does have a lot of wildlife. I don't know what study they did on this place. I have deer and turkeys that walk through my yard every day. My granddaughters love it. We love it. We don't mind living the way we live. I just don't know how much is enough. The entire place has been rezoned. We're just asking for between Yellowwater Lane and Wells Road, that 190 acres, to be left to the people that live there. We don't have anybody else. All we have is you. We have you, and we're asking, please stand up for the people in this area. Please. May God bless y'all's families and you. Thank you for what you do.
All right, thank you. Next we have Carl Heckwine, followed by David Faircloth.
Yes, I'm Carl Heckwine. I live at 14866 Bell States Road. I've been out there for 18 years. When I first moved out there, I moved out that part of Jacksonville because of the rural thing. I grew up in a small rural community in Illinois. I moved to Jacksonville. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. I lived in Georgia in a rural area before I moved down here. I moved down here for schooling and work. But I knew eventually I'd move out there. But the thing is, the infrastructure out there, I mean, you heard talking about the flooding. You heard talking about everything else. I personally, I've spoken it in the past, we don't have the necessary safety infrastructure out there to do anything. It takes anywhere from 25 minutes to an hour and 25 minutes to get a police officer out that area. Ambulances take anywhere, and they're supposed to be within 4 or 5 miles. I have personally sat there having had a stroke and a heart attack and a wasping. It put me into a diabetic or insulin-induced coma. It took them 45 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes to get to me each time. We also do, I mean, you heard talking about the flooding. My yard, every time we get a good-sized rain, my yard floods. I have to park down the road, walk down the road to get in rainwater, flood water to get to my vehicles. Either that or don't get out of the yard. And you heard about the livestock and the wild animals out there. I don't know what kind of study they've done. I know there was supposed to have been a study done last year that went in our favor saying that there was 4 or 5 endangered species living in that area. And I don't know where that report went to or what happened to it, but it was done. And every day out there, you see deer, you see turkeys, you see all kind of stuff. I heard tell of wild hogs. I have seen bears in there, and right there where we live at, but I've seen them get hit on Normandy a few years ago going to work at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we know there's animals out there, and all kind of animals. If you take this away from us, those on us on fixed incomes, we will become homeless. We have no place to go. It's low income. It's the housing out there is really affordable, and I ask that you guys take in consideration that this is one of the few places in Jacksonville that poor people can actually live. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, we'll have David Faircloth, followed by Carl Bell.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. David Faircloth, 14869 Yellowwater Lane. 1 year ago, this applicant filed application 23407, same location, less land. Staff recommended denial, listed at least 11 items to deny that application. Among those reasons is premature urban sprawl, doesn't provide a gradual transition of densities. They eventually withdrew that item. Page 35 of that app, Ms. Trimmer says it's okay to change this land to suburban LDR. Plenty of other AG land in the area for people to choose from. Lots of land available north, south, and west. To date, she has not showed us one single parcel, 1 acre of other land that's available. She just stood up here and said there is very little AGRR available land in this area, so they want to take this part. She also said she'd been talking to us a lot. She hadn't talked to me one time in 2 years, and I've been here. Staff report says this change will allow development of underutilized property. 1 year later, they reverse course. This is not underutilized property. It is AG property. It's RR property. It is exactly what it is supposed to be. It's not underutilized. It's a category used to preserve the existing character of the outlying areas of the city. Preserve being the operative word. The comp plan says it's supposed to be AGRR, one of 5 land use categories that you're supposed to provide for the citizens. 5 categories, so choices are available. You don't change it at the whim of a developer whose sole interest is making money. You preserve it. You make it difficult for somebody to change. You develop the land use because you knew down the road someone was going to want to come along and try to change it. The Bridle Creek project, it's a gimmick. Moving that shift through Bridle Creek, they don't need that done. That's a done deal. Changing that to suburban LDR doesn't do anything. It's a circumventing P&D's leapfrog policy that they have. Last week's Planning Commission, page 180, Ms. Trimmer says, we ask you to move the line to butt up to Lob Lolly, and that'll ensure we are not having further urban sprawl. You get that? We're going to move it so we don't have more urban sprawl. That's a kind of a slip up, if you ask me. I guess I'm out of time.
All right, sir. Thank you. All right, next we'll have Carl Bell, followed by John Weaver.
Excuse me. Yes, Carl Bell, 14914 Bell Estates Road. Yeah, I'm 82 years old, born and raised on this property. My family, we used to own the whole 400 acres from Wells Road all the way past Yellowwater Lane. We used to own the property where Cecil Commerce Center, the fairgrounds, all that was my family's property, which we had to give up because of Pearl Harbor. So we landed on this 400 acres. And speaking of the 400 acres, all that's trying to be rezoned, but there's no signs on the 400 acres. There's signs put up on the 190 acres, but the 190 acres is kind of centerways or partways of the 400 acres. There never was a zone sign put up there. I called about the zoning signs first to someone in y'all's property, and I said, first of all, the signs are right on the road. The only way you can read the sign is you're going to have to park before you get to the sign and walk out on the road and turn around and read the sign. And somebody said, well, you can just have a passenger. And I said, you're right, stop in the middle of Yellowwater Road and semis, that ain't going to work. And then, but the other land has never been, the signs have never been put up. Miss Cindy, I don't like to call anybody a liar or telling the truth. She don't lie, but she does have a way with words, which she's got a good education, that's for sure. And she really, her and Andrew Heyman, I wish Andrew Heyman would be a gospel singer or a evangelist, because he could turn this world around. But I think y'all should do some background checks on him, because he's coming offered money out of the yang for this property. I was introduced to him by Michael Griffin, and Michael Griffin said, yeah, he's made a beautiful place out in Alabama, 400 acres. And then he said he's made a beautiful spot on Tamaquana Road. You ought to talk to him, Carl, or Eugene. He calls me Eugene. And I said, okay. So I did a little investigation. Yes, he might own that property on Tamaquana Road. I think he's owned it for about 4 years. And all he's done so far is run a bunch of poor people off their property. And the people in Alabama, it never happened because they wouldn't let it happen. They had different reasons. But if you do a little bit of background check, you find out that he's not really up to snuff on some things. But again, the north of the property that they were talking about, that they said you could. Well, thank you for your time.
All right,
God
sir.
bless all of you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have John Weaver, followed by Robert Catez Jr.
So John Weaver, 14896 Bell Estates Road, Jacksonville, Florida, 32234. We moved up here from an urban area in South Florida. We've been up here for a year now. And then just in that, it's been a little over a year, just in that short time, I've really come to appreciation of what rural living is all about. And it's something that's totally different. It's something that a lot of people don't experience. But when I found out we're talking about, possible redevelopment or changing the zoning, 7 units per acre, I can't even visualize that. I'm on a little over an acre. I'm going to say I got 3 units. I got a house, a greenhouse, and a carport. I can't imagine adding 4 more units to that little acre there. This is just a whole new way of life up here in the rural area. It's completely different. The quality of life is better. Development, I'm not against development. Development's got to be responsible. 7 units per acre is not responsible in this area. It's a small area. It's not just going to disrupt things. It's going to change things totally change the area. Aside from not just the wildlife, but there's people talking about drainage and traffic, and development brings more development. We all know that. We don't just get to see wildlife once in a while. We see it every day in our front yards or backyards. The potential of 7 units per acre right now, many of us will be looking out our back door at houses or whatever they are, whatever amounts to 7 units per acre. We'll be looking right at it. There's no getting around it. But I just strongly urge you to reconsider the approval of this at the time. Development is development, but this is not responsible development at 7 units per acre in this area. Trying to go from rural to bringing suburban in there. It's not compatible in such a small area. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, we have Robert Catez Jr., followed by Ruth Thompson.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Catez. My address is on file there. I came here in '96 when I was stationed in Cecil Field, and I got to tell you, it's a real honor to live off of Yellow Water Road. We love it there. Carrie and I, we moved there when we found that property because of just the beauty of the rural area, the open spaces, the land, the cows, the wildlife, just the unadulterated beauty. That by itself is not going to be the reason why we're here. I would surmise that that the community feels the same way that I do. Obviously, so far I've heard what they said. It is true that we are here for the same reason. The local ecosystem obviously would be disturbed. The wetlands, trees, wild boar, turkey, bobcat, deer, birds. We're, of course, concerned about the wetlands. We know that there is a mitigation preserve right next door, right behind us, but maybe we want the wetlands to be where they are. I don't want to have to go behind the property where I'm not really supposed to be to see the wetlands, because there is beauty there too in the wetlands. Traffic. Obviously, traffic will be madness. It is a single lane road, well, one lane per side, and that would be very bad for us. Sinkholes. I don't know how realistic it could be, but it could happen. Construction does disturb normal water flow around in the ground, washing away limestone at an accelerated rate, creating voids. So it could happen. More people equals more crime. I'm not saying any kinds of people are going to be living there, but you put more people, there will be more crime. The reason we live here, the reason why we moved there, it's what we consider to be the last unadulterated part of Jacksonville that hasn't been, I could say, bastardized by a Publix on every corner. We love it there. It's authentic. We're interested, and the community is, and we ask that you help serve in preserving this authentic part of Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, where we live. Something I heard recently, it's funny in closing, the more south you go in Florida, the more north it is. You could probably hear my accent. I come from just 20 minutes north of New York City. I didn't come to live where I live now because I wanted to be in the urban sprawl. I do love the wilderness, and I love everything that the community has. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll have Ruth Thompson, followed by Penny Buckland McGregor.
Good evening again. My name is Ruth Thompson. I live at 1605 Osceola Street, Jacksonville, Florida, 32204. I have a question as far as before this is approved, could the council recommend a high-intensity wetland survey, or that the Jacksonville Corps of Engineers do a survey on the land for its conservation purpose instead of having a report from the builder, which would naturally, I feel, they wouldn't give it unless it supported their development. I'm here today. I'm a fifth-generation Jacksonville native. And Florida is losing 120 acres per day of rural land, agricultural land. That comes to 4,500 acres per year that we lose from agriculture to the urban sprawl. One thing that was said is that we can't find, we need this land, we're doing a favor, we're helping find housing. When you drive around Jacksonville, there is so much area that needs to be developed. It needs to be infilled. We need to revitalize a lot of our urban area. Look at Lane Avenue, Edgewood, Hammond. All those areas could be developed in an infill type situation. But you're not going to make, as a developer, if you take 190 acres, clear it out, you're not going to make as much money by infilling. So a lot of this comes down to, it all comes down to money. Where can we make the most money? And another thing that really upsets me is that, we developed 5,000 homes and 6,000 homes. Basically, we broke the zoning code. So now we're just going to run rampant. Give me an inch and I'll take a foot. And this is what we are seeing in Jacksonville. Using that as a justification for continuing this desecration of our conservative land. Most of this area is on wetlands. And they say, we're not going to use we're going to use the uplands. The uplands is as important to the wetlands as the wetlands themselves. The uplands protect the watershed. They they absorb the water so that there's not flooding. Many of the people that got up here talked about flooding. So I am against this development. I drove out there to see it, and I wonder how many of you have driven out there to see this area. Yes, you drive up Normandy and there's development, but you turn down Yellow Water and there's no development. So please, let's protect Florida for our future descendants and our grandchildren.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll have Penny Buckland McGregor, followed by Juan Iznaga.
My name is Penny Buckland McGregor. I live at 18090 Wells Road. In 2010, they did a chicken law that you could only have 3 chickens. Because I've lived there for so long, I'm grandfathered in. I can have as many as I want because it's rural residential. It is rural agricultural. To make it a really broad span, 7 houses per acre. Heck, I could reach out with my cane and hit my neighbor and still be in my yard. This is an outrage. I have been in the United States Air Force. I have been on the Jacksonville Fire Rescue. I have been a farmer on this property since '97. I don't want to see a single tree cut down on this project because even though the Eagle's Nest is a half-mile off, I looked it up. An eagle hunts 2.5 acres, 2.5 miles, I'm upset, from its nest. It makes a nest in an isolated area, away from humans. You put in this many houses, you better bring some body bags because the neighbors are low income. They're not going to have cars where everybody can go drive to work. I chose this land because I had to drive 17 miles to get to a grocery store. I loved it. I had cows in back of me. I have cows in front of me. I don't want to see it changed. Changing from our agricultural status should be against the law. But no, money from a developer, money is what rules this world. And that should be illegal. I have served my community. I work in a food distribution for this community of Jacksonville. I should not have to say, I can't do it because I have to move. My property last year, taxes was at $36,000. Now it is $99,000 because of this proposed income from all these people. I am a disabled veteran. I was still serving my community in the best way I can. And I think all of you should stand up and say no.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Juan Iznaga, followed by William M. Lynn.
I'm Juan Iznaga. My address is on record. I don't know a whole lot about zoning and land use and all that, but I do live in the area. And I'm not here because I have any emotional ties to anything. In fact, I'm really annoyed that I even have to be here for this. My biggest concern is the sudden change in mind from the Land Use Committee from denial 2 years ago to all of a sudden agreeing to it. The applicant put together a good package, and I'll give them that. I think there are appearances of a suburban area in the area, but that's all it is. It's an appearance. The 569 acres across the street is still zoned rural residential, meaning that they could only put 2 houses per parcel. literally right across the street, which is incoherent with what the applicant's trying to do across the street, which is 7 houses per parcel. If you do the math, that's a 250% increase in density. It's simple math. I don't know if you guys are listening or not, but I'm going to keep talking. With that being said, it's an incoherent and unthoughtless move to approve this that quickly. The little bit that I was able to gather from all this is that when you develop an area, a city, there has to be a gradual transition. A transition from AGR to LDR and suburban is a leapfrog move, if I'm capturing that correctly, to go from 2.5 acres per parcel, literally right across the street, that's 500 acres. And on the other side, you have 200 acres where they're asking for 7 houses per acre. That's a 250% increase. That's 3.5 times the amount of houses that's already approved and just started developing this year. There's no infrastructure in place. I know that the FDOT is gonna expand Normandy Boulevard. That's 7 or 10 years from now. We're looking at like County Road 210. Look how hard it is to drive down that road. And that's because they put the cart in front of the horse. And I think that's what we're in danger of doing here. You guys are free to, look, if it gets approved, so be it. The cow's out of the barn. Yes, the area is developing, and there are suburban characteristics to it, but it's an appearance. The fact of the matter is that the development across the street is in clusters. There's still 2 houses per parcel. That's what it equates to for the 569 acres. We should do the same for the 200 acres. We should not put 7 versus 2 per acre.
All right, thank you. Sorry for the distraction, too. There's a rule we have to keep 4 people at a time for a quorum, so I was just making sure we had our 4. Didn't mean any disrespect there. All right, William M. Lynn, you're next, followed by Carol Ann Christopher.
William Lynn, I live at 16989-1 Wells Road. I've been out there since 1987, and I definitely oppose this rezoning. My experience, this type of application's only supported by people who are going to benefit it, from it financially. I think the applicant there, some of her reasoning for she thinks it should be approved is because there's already development out there. So my point would be, I think like that gentleman just said, once it starts, that's going to be everybody's excuse for wanting something rezoned, is because the people across the street already got it rezoned. Because we're definitely losing our rural way of life out there. I noted earlier, y'all had the major discussion on the first one, talking about the people that live in the city, they deal with overcrowding, traffic, flooding, no parking, because that's the cost of living in the city. Well, we live where we live because we don't want those problems. Because if this is approved, it's going to overwhelm, our resources and infrastructure that's already out there. The traffic on Normandy, like it's been mentioned before, is insane anymore. Trying to especially pull out off of Yellowwater in the mornings with no red light there is quite the adventure. Also, I wanted to thank the residents around that's been giving out the flyers to keep everybody informed on this, and we hope that you turn this down, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next I have Carol Ann Christophers, followed by Oksana Vitru.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Carol Christopherson. I live at 14897 Yellowwater Road out there in that area. I've been out there since 2008. Back in 2024, 2/26 of 2024, Randy White emailed me back and said, I understand your concerns. I'm having the agent for this project reach out to you to answer any further questions. Thanks, Randy. I'm still waiting on my answers. and my concerns to be addressed. And she stood up here and said she's talked to people. She hadn't talked to me either. I am deaf, so if you speak to me or ask me questions or whatever, which I'm sure you won't, but I'm the president and founder of Florida Service Dogs. I run a nonprofit out there. I've been out there since 2008, as I mentioned. When I moved out there, I looked specifically for land that I could house my dogs to run the nonprofit. And Mr. Diamond knows, as you mentioned before, who I am and whatnot. I have a kennel out there with the dogs. And neighbors complained when I moved in. Everybody said, well, you're a commercial kennel. We're not a commercial kennel. We don't sell anything. Nothing's for sale. They're my dogs. I run the nonprofit. I do classes in the city and stuff. In fact, I ditched my classes tonight just to come here for this. It's really important. As I mentioned, we don't want to lose our land out there, our agriculture. If we lose agricultural zoning out there, we cannot have our animals out there by your own ordinances and your own codes. The animal control ordinances will affect me big time, which is barking dogs. Doesn't bother me because I'm totally deaf, so yay. But somebody will start complaining at some point and we'll be shut down. We're the only nonprofit in Jacksonville that does service dogs in Jacksonville, Duval County. Okay, I get Canine for Warriors out there, but they're in Ponte Vedra. They do all over, but we've been around. I placed my first dog in '99. Been around a long time. I do service health presentations, demos, therapies, the whole 9 yards. Been at the city park since 2010. I'm asking you, you've already destroyed our land, as I've mentioned. You drive down Norman, Yellowwater. Normandy's just got construction. You're tearing everything apart. You can't get through in the morning. The wildlife, the deer, I have deer in my yard. And that disappears when they have all the transportation and construction out there. They made a mess out of everything on Normandy. It's a mess trying to get through, get to home. They come out here with their money and their contractors and just want to move in and add more housing. Everybody talks about, we have houses and apartments being built for no money. Nobody can afford it. They talk about homeless housing. Or, the homeless still has no housing. And they talk about affordable housing. There is no affordable housing. So, I got 3 seconds. So, no, please vote no. You have a no button, a no switch. Please say no.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Oksana Vitrug. And then the last card is Carrie Ketez for questions only in opposition. Is Oksana here? Oksana from Yellowwater Road? Nope. And then it's read in the record that Carrie Ketez is in opposition. Those are the speaker cards. Ms. Trimmer, your 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. We all have the collective challenge of managing the competing issues of urban sprawl versus responsible growth, and we all kind of throw those phrases out, but it's something that we have to tackle and deal with real time here every other Tuesday. When we brought this application originally and heard all of the outcry from the community, we put full pause and went back and worked very closely with the council person who did convey different issues that were raised to him by staff. I hope you all know I would never not reach out to somebody intentionally, and I have my card for anybody that wants to have conversation as we move forward through the process. We've been working very closely with Kimley Horn and their entire team. They have a white paper that is on file going through the comprehensive plan and why the request in front of you today is appropriate. Again, if you look at the map of this area, it is a unique area with a lot of protected land surrounding this quadrant. And it was in consultation with the council person and staff and all of our consultants that we identified this small quadrant that has the Loblolly mitigation bank to the west as a hard break and Wells Road with the creek running along it to the north, that this quadrant right there was appropriate for an extension of the pattern of development that is already happening in the area and would create a logical break to ensure that it didn't continue to proliferate throughout the rest of this area. We heard a lot of concerns about wetland, wildlife, traffic. We've done preliminary studies Normandy, for example, is operating at 56%, but this isn't the type of thing where you have to take my word for it. This is a large-scale land use amendment. This is only the transmittal round. This is going to go to the state, and all of the alphabet soup of agencies are going to look at this. FDOT, Florida Fish and Wildlife, Department of Environmental Protection, all of these different agencies are going to do a deep dive on this request. They're going to communicate with the planning department and our team. If there are issues, they're going to be vetted during that review by the state before we're ever allowed to come back to you and talk about this in more detail. At the end of the day, though, it is very relevant. If you look at the construction that is happening to the east, the pattern of development really is moving in this area. This is a logical extension of what is happening. It's consistent and compatible with what is coming in this surrounding area. And again, this is transmittal round. We ask for your support so the state agencies can do their job and that we can come back to you with a site plan and a PUD where we can look at very specific concerns and what we can do about them. We know there'll be a very robust discussion at that time. We're not going to steamroll anything. We do want to make sure we get this right, but we ask for your support to continue moving forward with the diligence today.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Councilmember Gaffney Jr. for question.
Thank you. Through the chair, I got a few questions. Ms. Trimmer, what's the ultimate goal? I know we're going through transmitter round right now, but what's the ultimate goal? I know to build homes, but I guess you guys haven't even got that far yet, correct? I mean, in terms of potentially, I don't know, 1,000 homes, what we talking about, 190 acres. What's the ultimate goal? A couple of subdivisions or what?
Through the chair, residential subdivisions. Again, we've done some high-level diligence to roughly delineate wetlands and things like that. We don't have actual site planning to be able to nail down exactly what the unit count would be. That's something that we would have the ability to control and limit in a PUD once we get to that round. Okay. And we'll have a lot more detail of what the actual density would be once we have an opportunity to lay out stormwater retention and roads and all of the infrastructure. I don't expect it's actually going to hit 7 units an acre, but our options in the city of Jacksonville are 2 or 7, and then the opportunity to control it is the PUD.
Okay, and through the chair, this might be a question for the planning department or maybe Dylan. And excuse me for my ignorance. If we passed it tonight, does legislation still have to come back before us before homes start being built?
Yes, this is the transmittal round, so it's the land use only. So if you recommend approval, you're recommending approval to transmit this request to the state agencies. Once they review it and send us their comments, and if the applicant can address those comments, then they will apply for their PUD rezoning, and you'll see this land use amendment and the rezoning again for a second round of hearings.
Okay. And through the chair, one more last question. Why did you guys, I guess, approve this legislation? I recommended approval for this. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. On the planning department. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you?
I know it was recommended for approval. If you could put on the record why. I mean, I know you did it earlier, but just for my.
It's outlined in the staff report, but specifically, if you look at the maps that we provided, it shows you the progression of growth heading west. I'm getting my east and west mixed up. Heading west from the Cecil Commerce and the number of approved amendments that have come through the city council as well for an increase in density, showing that the area over the last 10 years has been trending and moving towards suburban type development.
I'm just trying to figure out in terms of the constituents, in terms of how to protect them as well. I mean, I know homes got to get built. I'm not against growth, but how can we protect, the neighbors as well? So I see what my rest of my colleagues have to say if they have any questions. But that's it for right now.
All right, Councilman Amaro, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just got a quick question for Ms. Parola or Ms. Abbey. Because someone mentioned the word transition in testimony, and the inference was, I guess, spot zoning, for lack of a better word. Can you explain if this is a logical transition from AGR and RR to LDR? Anything unusual about that move?
In this case, the planning department is is recommending approval as outlined in the staff report. And because of the 190 acres, the scale of the site, and the suburban character of the surrounding area, there is some LDR approvals that have been recently approved and over the past 10 years to the east of the site. The site immediately east is in the rural residential category. However, they have clustered development to allow for a more suburban type feel with subdivisions, 50-foot lots, and some townhomes. So we feel like this is a logical extension, not only of the suburban boundary, but a logical extension of the LDR category, which allows a maximum of 7 units per acre, which will be further limited through the PUD process.
All right, we don't have any other speakers, so we will close the public hearing and bring this back to committee just in time for the vice chair to move it. All right, I have a motion and a second on the bill, but go ahead, Mr. Gaffney. Second was from Mr. Amaro.
Sure. I heard repeatedly that, Ms. Tremor, that there was no communication between yourself, I guess, the district councilman, and the community. Can you speak to that?
Through the chair, I have reiterated that I have my card. I will pass it out. If anybody wants to contact me directly and ask questions, I will happily have as many meetings as is possible. People have communicated through the councilman. The councilman has conveyed those to me. Anybody that I have been asked to communicate with, I have. I certainly haven't ignored any request to contact somebody, but I am available, and I will put my cell phone number out for everybody that needs to have it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, we do have a motion and a second on the bill. There's no one else in the queue. Please open the ballot and record your vote.
Six yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-0307, and I'll recognize Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to put on the record, I did have to step across the street to the library for an event Juneteenth, but I was watching via our stream, and I did feel confident enough, so I just wanted to put on the record that I was watching the vote. Thank you. I felt confident enough to vote. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Right, now we'll go to item 19, 2025-0308. Let's open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you. Ordinance 2025-308 is a adoption round text amendment to the comprehensive plan that adopts by reference the water supply facilities work plan. Ordinance 308 would adopt text amendments to the conservation, coastal management, and infrastructure elements of the 2045 comp plan. It adopts by reference the state-mandated 10-year update to the water supply facilities work plan pursuant to Florida statutes. The transmittal round of this was approved with Ordinance 2024-969E and sent to the state and is now back before you today. As previously stated, we must adopt this water supply facilities work plan within 18 months after the regional water supply plan is approved by the governing board of the Water Management District. So the state requires that this update be approved by June of 2025. The ultimate goal of the amendment is to demonstrate coordination between growth management planning and water supply planning. Planning Department coordinated and worked with JEA and received technical assistance from the Water Management District in developing this proposal. The text amendments of the plan and provisions are consistent with the approved North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan and JEA's approved consumptive use permit. We forward a recommendation as outlined in the staff report for approval. The Planning Commission approved the text amendment on June 5th, 2025 unanimously. And if you would like more information or highlights on the water supply facility work plan, I'm happy to give those as well.
All right, thank you for that. No one in the queue. There is one speaker card. No, it's on 309. All right, no one's in the queue, so let's close the public hearing, bring it back to committee. A motion and second on the bill. No one in the queue. Please open the ballot, record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-0308. Moving on to item 2025-0309. Please declare any ex parte communication you may have at this time. I have to claim I had a phone call with Mr. Sittner last week, and we discussed the details of this application. And then also right before this meeting, I met with Mr. Sittner and Pastor Hudson, and further discussed the history of this original PUD and the need for the update. And we'll get that filed with Legislative Services. There's no one else, so let's open the public hearing and get staff report.
Thank you. This is PUD rezoning ordinance 2025-0309, seeking to rezone approximately 14.9 acres of land from a PUD that was approved back in 2020 to a new PUD in order to eliminate conditions related to signage placements that was placed on the property through the 2020 PUD by City Council, which prohibited internal illumination signage and changing message boards. The subject property is currently developed with a church, a school, and a townhome development. The Crossroad Church is seeking to install 2 monument signs on the site. One is to replace the existing monument sign along Gate Parkway, which will be approximately 70 square feet, and will include a changing message board. The second proposed sign will be located along Shiloh Mill Boulevard and will be approximately 35 square feet in size and externally illuminated. The current PUD was approved through ordinance 2020-0610 and was approved with 16 conditions. 2 of those conditions are related to signage. One was for no internally illuminated signage shall be permitted for the school, townhome, or the water facility uses. And then the second condition is related to changing message boards are to be prohibited within the PUD. These conditions were agreed upon by the development after communication with surrounding communities and staff, and was voted on by City Council with the intent to maintain compatibility and protect the surrounding neighborhood residential uses. These conditions also align with Part 13 of the zoning code, which regulates signage for church and institutional uses within residential zoning districts by limiting them to 1 non-illuminated or an externally illuminated sign, and then changing message devices are also prohibited in residential zoning districts. There have been no significant changes to the surrounding area to justify the need for the removal of the signage conditions. The site is surrounded by residential uses, which include the Old Mill Branch single-family subdivision, the Mirabella Condo Association, and the Sail Cove Condo Association to the south. To the west, you do have other office complexes, which do include the Florida Blue Deerwood campus and then other additional office complexes. So because of these reasons, staff is recommending denial of the proposed PUD, as the purpose of the PUD is simply to remove these conditions that are related to signage for the existing PUD that was approved under ordinance 2010-0610. The application was heard by Planning Commission on June 5th, where there were no speakers in opposition. After the applicant explained that the new proposed signage had been discussed with the surrounding residential communities, which did include the Old Mill Branch HOA and the Mirabella Condominium Association, and the fact that there were no speakers in opposition at the public hearing, the commission had no concerns on the signage change requested, and they voted unanimously for approval.
Thank you very much. You have a question for now? All right, Councilman Arias. We still have a speaker card. I see the queue lighting up.
Okay. All right. Sorry, through the chair. So why was it denied through the planning department? Like, what was the reasoning? I mean, this is just a simple signage. I understand like changing the PUD or whatever the case is, but it's just a sign, and the neighbors are okay with it. So what's the issue?
Through the chair to Councilman Arias, even with the original PUD that went back in 2020, staff had concerns related on internally illuminated signage and message boards. So we put forward conditions related to those limiting internal illumination and message boards due to it being surrounded by residential communities. The fact that the applicant is asking to remove those conditions, staff is going to stand by its original request to add the conditions related to signage. and allow City Council to decide to remove them as they were approved originally by City Council.
I see. So my only concern with this is, and through the chair, it's very important that we stay consistent with our votes. And obviously, this was done previously, and if the applicant or the user of the property agreed to it, then they come back later when there's a new set of council members to change that, then we're not being consistent. I say this during finance for other things too. We need to be consistent. If we agree on something and the applicant and the developer or the property owner agrees to it, then it is what it is. Not just come back 4 or 5 years later to say, hey, new class of council members, let's change it up because they may not care. So I agree we should be consistent with this. I just don't really see the issue with the illuminated signs. That's my only issue with it. That it's not a big deal, but I'll let the rest of the colleagues speak. Thank you.
All right, I still have a speaker. Can I? One speaker. All right, Mr. Sittner, you're recognized, and then we'll go around for questions.
Great. Michael Sittner, 1 Independent Drive, Suite 1200, on behalf of the applicant. So this property, this church, Crossroad Church, is located in the town center area. It's just west of town center and just east of Tinseltown on Gate Parkway. And as you heard from Ms. Abney, in 2020, there was a rezoning to facilitate infill development for the church complex. That was basically there was a large portion of grass that the church sold off to other developers. And so during that entitlement effort, there was a lot of community engagement, which resulted in a lot of those conditions. And I think what happened is during that entitlement effort, and Councilman Carrico was actually the councilman at the time, they were really focused on what was happening with those other developments, which is now the school and those townhomes. And so I think a lot of those signage conditions were really concerned about the townhome, which is deeper, closer to the old Mill Branch community, having some kind of electronic signage blazing right into their backyards. What our rezoning is doing is we're taking an existing sign that's on Gate Parkway. That's going to be the electronic changing sign. It's not showing or blasting into any residential neighborhood. It's showing onto Gate Parkway. And we're actually orienting it east, so as people are driving from the town center to the church, they can see the events or whatever else is going on at the church. And I will say, before we even filed an application, before we did anything, once the church reached out to us and let us know, and we saw what condition or what the ordinance in the PUD was, we reached out to the councilman, and the councilman actually put us into contact with both communities. And before submitting anything, we showed both communities our proposal. They both, in writing, said they have no objections to it. We haven't heard from them since. I've been emailing them, updating them on as the application has gone forward. And again, they've issued no concerns. With that, I'm happy to stand by for questions. Also, we found about 8 or 10 other schools and churches that are on similar roadways as Gate Parkway that also have electronic changing signs. There's a bunch of churches on Kernan. There's a bunch of churches on Hodges, which is a similar type development as Gate Parkway, where Crossroads Church is located. I'm happy to go into in-depth about all of those churches. Don't want to take up too much time, but with that, I'm happy to stand by for questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sittner, and I'll take the pleasure of the chair to just confirm some of the things that Mr. Sittner said. Yes, I have developed some gray hairs over the years, but I was there in 2020. This was the first community I ever worked with on doing a PUD and putting conditions. It was a very intense learning process that it's accurate to what Mr. Sittner said. The concern from the neighbors was the new development behind the church where the school and townhome would be. If they had big illuminating signs, that would be directly across from their backyard. So that's why that was in. As Mr. Sittner said, my office hasn't heard from any of the community associations or the neighborhood associations that are close by. So after we close the public hearing, I'll tell you what I think. If you have questions, we can keep going. Mr. Amaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of concur with my colleague that when reading the application that it seemed kind of suspect that 5 years after agreeing to conditions, you would come back. You've got a new legislative body and you try to remove those conditions. My question through the chair to Mr. Sittner, what is the driving force for wanting a new sign, one that clearly goes against the conditions of the original PUD, with information board and illumination, And I presume there would be a sign along the entrance for the school as well of the same character. Why is the church moving in this direction?
So I do want to get into, this is a little into the weeds, but there are two conditions that are at play here. One of them doesn't actually speak on the church site. And it reads, no internally illuminated signage shall be permitted for the school, townhome, or water facility uses. And that's just evidence to the fact that the school, townhome, or water facility uses are what's now the school and the townhome. So that was the contemplated development. So that condition doesn't even talk on the church site specifically. So that condition's kind of not really applicable to, correct. And so we are proposing a monument sign that's going to be externally illuminated along Shiloh Mill, which is the drive. And what's happening is we're actually, the church is experiencing some of its constituents having a hard time wayfinding between, they have a preschool at their church campus, and they're having some constituents having an issue wayfinding between the preschool and the new school that's behind them. So that's why they're proposing a monument sign on Shiloh Mill. It's externally illuminated. And then the message changing sign, which is only on Gate Parkway. They really just want to have a better outreach, having community engagement, understanding that, they have certain events on, that's occurring on a regular schedule, and they want to keep their members engaged. Thank you. Yep.
All right, Dr. Johnson, good to go? All right, no one else in the queue. Let's close the public hearing, bring it back to committee. All right, needless to say, I support it and urge you to do it as well. The church is a great neighbor, do a lot of things in the district. So no one else is in the queue. Open the ballot, record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
You have approved 2025-0309. Item 21, 2025-0310. Council members, please declare any ex parte communication you may have at this time. Councilman Gaffney.
Thank you to the chair. I rise to declare ex parte. I met with we spoke over the phone earlier today, Mr. Josh Cockrell, about this new development. He asked me did I have any questions. We just talked about the length, the width of the house, how many homes, the whole 9 yards. And I made sure everything get filed with legislative services. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Amaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did rise to declare ex parte as well. Spoke with Mr. Cockrell last Friday before he took some time off with his family, and he just needed to know if I had any questions about the application. It's been filed with legislative services.
All right, thank you. I also spoke to Mr. Cockrell last week on the telephone and just went over the details. And if I had any questions, I did not. So, let's open the public hearing and get staff report.
Thank you. This is conventional rezoning ordinance 2025-0310, which is seeking to rezone approximately 3.5 acres of land from residential rural acre to RLD 50 in order to develop the property with single-family dwellings with lot sizes 50 feet in width and 5,000 square feet. In order to achieve this lot size, the property will be required to connect to both city water and city sewer. Per the submitted JEA availability letter, there's an existing water main and a sewer main along Trout River Boulevard. Staff has reviewed the request and finds that the proposed rezoning to be consistent with the comp plan with the existing land use category of low-density residential, which allows for a maximum of 7 units per acre. The property would be allowed to develop a maximum of 24 single-family dwellings. The proposed rezoning furthers the goals and objectives of the comp plan by again encouraging residential infill development. The subject parcel is located on the west side of Aileen Road, which is just north of Trout River Boulevard and east of New Kings Road. The surrounding neighborhood is developed primarily with single-family dwellings and townhomes. Development to the south was approved through a PUD in 2021 to allow for single-family subdivision that allows for a mix of 50 and 60-foot wide lots for a total of 118 units. South of Trout River Boulevard is another PUD that was approved in 2006, which allows for a development of townhome community. We find the rezone to RLD 50 to be consistent and compatible with surrounding uses. So because of these reasons and those in the staff report, we're forwarding a recommendation of approval. Application was heard by Planning Commission on June 5th. There were no speakers in opposition and little discussion, and they voted unanimously for approval.
All right, thank you very much. One speaker card, Mr. Josh Cockrell, who's 40, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, fellow council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak before you. Josh Cockrell, 200 North Lars Street, Suite 906, here on behalf of the applicant here today. This property here, as mentioned by staff, is rural residential. It's our acre. We are looking to seek approval for rezoning to RLD 50, as staff mentioned, directly south to us, approximately 350, 400 feet is PUD, two different PUDs that were approved a couple years ago that consist of a mix of both single family and townhomes. That PUD consists of a mix of both RLD 50s and RLD 60s. What we're hoping to accomplish here by rezoning this to RLD 50 is to provide an attainable housing product here in this area, which is greatly needed. And we're working with both a local general contractor that's interested in developing such. Currently, as mentioned, about developing a maximum of 24 single-family dwellings. We're hoping with retention we can do between 18 and 20 units here. So I'm here to stand by for any questions you may have.
All right, taking no one in the queue, let's close the public hearing and bring this to committee. Got a motion and a second on the bill. No one in the queue, please open the ballot, record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved 2025-0310. Item 22, 2025-0363 is deferred. 23, 2025-0364 is deferred. Item 24, 2025-0365 is deferred. Item 25, 2025-0366 is deferred. Item 26, 2025-0367, deferred. Item 27, 2025-0368 is deferred. Item 28, 2025-0369. Please declare any ex parte communication you may have at this time. Seeing none, we will open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is zoning exception 2025-369, which seeks to permit the retail sale and service of all alcohol, including liquor, beer, and wine for on-premise consumption. The subject property is a 0.6 acre lot located at the northeast intersection of North Market Street and East 14th Street. The property was previously used as a warehouse and junkyard. It was rezoned in 2024 to a PUD under Ordinance 2024-981 to permit the redevelopment of the warehouse into a food court, art gallery, and entertainment space, along with the development of an outdoor playground, splash pad, and mini golf course. The PUD permits for the sale of beer and wine in conjunction with the restaurant, but requires a zoning exception for all alcohol, including liquor. The proposed alcohol use will be compatible with the existing contiguous uses and future uses of the surrounding area, including the Phoenix Arts District located directly west of the subject site. The Phoenix Art District similarly was rezoned in 2024 to permit a variety of residential, office, and commercial uses, including on-premise consumption of alcohol. There's a companion waiver of liquor distance, WLD 2504, which seeks to reduce the minimum distance between the proposed liquor license location and the Light and the Word of God Presbyterian Church from 1,500 feet to 635 feet. This application was heard and approved by the Planning Commission on June 5th, 2025. Staff finds proposed alcohol use compatible with the surrounding area and forwards a recommendation of approval with the one condition listed in the report.
All right, thank you for that. One speaker card, Mr. Hector Zayas for questions only. He's in support. Seeing no one in the queue, we'll close the public hearing and bring this back to committee. I've got a motion and a second on the amendment. Mr. Reingold.
Absolutely. So the amendment would adopt a condition that the zoning exception granted herein shall not be effective unless or until the required waiver of liquor distance, WLD 25-04, pursuant to section 656.133 Ordinance Code is issued for the subject property. I just want to confirm with the applicant that you are agreeable to that condition.
Hector Zayas, 1224 North Laura Street. I don't tend to understand what the condition is.
It essentially just means that you acknowledge that you need both the zoning exception and the waiver of liquor distance to operate.
So my understanding that after this, I can apply for the license. right? Yes. Okay. Sure.
You agree? Yep.
Yes.
All right. On the amendment, Councilman Diamond? On the bill. All right. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The amendment carries. Got a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Councilmember Diamond.
It's mini putt in liquor. How do we vote yes twice? Also, Mr. Zayas is awesome. And I serve with his son in the Florida Guard, so these are good people.
All right. Double down on that. Councilman Arias? Nope. All right. So no one else is in the queue. The bill has been properly moved and second as amended. Please open the ballot and record your vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved 2025-0369 as amended. Item 29, 2025-0370. Please declare any ex parte communication you may have at this time. Councilman Amaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise to declare ex parte. Had a brief conversation with Mr. Harden regarding this application on last week. He wanted to know if I had any questions and provided some further clarification as to what the application is about. Thank you. It's been filed with Legislative Services.
All right, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, sir. I have, Mr. Chair, myriad ex parte. All have been filed with Legislative Services. I also want to put on the record that I had a noticed meeting, a public meeting, at the Argyle Branch Library on last week, and of course the developer's representative, Mr. Harden, was there. All of the records have been filed with Legislative Services. Thank you.
Councilman Arias.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare ex parte. I had a conversation via phone call on June 12th with the applicant, and it's being filed as we speak. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have myriad to report. Just one. I had a conversation 3 days ago with Paul Harden, and we filed it with Legislative Services. Thank you.
Councilman Gaffney.
Thank you, through the chair. I also like to declare ex parte. I didn't meet with Mr. Paul Harden. I mean, he reached out to me and asked me did I have any questions about this legislation. I'll make sure everything get filed with Legislative Services. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I also have ex parte to declare, as I had a phone call with Mr. Paul Harden also on June 12th, in which we discussed the difference between a liquor store with or without a tasting room, and the merits of the bill were also discussed. We'll get that filed with Legislative Services. Now, let's open the public hearing and get staff report.
Thank you. This is zoning exception 2025-370, which seeks to permit the retail sale and service of all alcohol, including liquor, beer, and wine for on-premise consumption. The subject property is a 4.35 acre site located at the northeast corner of Collins Road and Old Middleburg Road South. The property was rezoned to a PUD in 2023 under Ordinance 2023-747. Ordinance 2023-747 permits for a variety of commercial uses, and the approved site plan shows the property being subdivided into 4 out parcels. The proposed establishment is Shores Fine Wine and Spirits. Building permits show that the proposed liquor store will be developed on out parcel 2 as an 8,791 square foot building with a drive-through. The PUD permits for the off-premise consumption of alcohol by right. However, a zoning exception is required for on-premise consumption. Shores Fine Wine and Spirits is seeking the exception for on-premise consumption to add a tasting room in conjunction with the already permitted liquor store. There is a companion waiver of liquor distance, WLD 2505, between the subject property and Enterprise Learning Academy and Blessed Seed Church from 1,500 feet to 1,374 feet. This waiver is set to be heard by the Planning Commission on June 20th. Staff finds the proposed use to be compatible with the other permitted uses in the PUD and with the surrounding area, as the site is located less than a quarter mile north of the Oakleaf Town Center. For these reasons and those listed in the staff report, staff forwards recommendation of approval with the one condition listed in the staff report.
All right, thank you very much. We have 2 speaker cards on this bill. First is Mr. Paul Harden.
Paul Harden, 1431 River Place Boulevard. I have an issue related to the condition, but can I stand by and deal with questions first and then come back and deal with that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I think once we get into the merits of moving the bill and the condition, we'll go back to you and let you.
Thank you. Other than that, I'll stand by for questions.
All right. Next speaker we have is Royce Frame.
Hello, City Council. My name is Royce Frame, 10027 Stone Creek Way. I moved to Jacksonville around 1980 from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm against this for one reason. It's fine, the liquor store, that's fine, that's got okay. But when they started putting the line of drinking and so forth, that's going to increase the traffic that much more. It's bad enough at that intersection there. Has anybody been to that intersection there at Collins Road and I know you have, Doctor. You've been there because you were there the other day. But has anybody else been at that intersection? At that intersection in Old Middleburg Road and Collins Road? Have you been there through there? Have you seen what it is? Well, it's very bad as far as, and they're going to have construction there next year. It's going to start already started on 103rd Street. It's going to go all the way to Argyle Forest eventually. So it's going to be there for 3 years, construction. The main construction will be here about a year from now. Close by, the Enterprise Learning Academy was mentioned. There's children there, and there's a library. Argyle Forest Library is there. At the library, you know good and well, children go to the library 3 times more than adults. 3 times. The more children go to the library, 3 times more than adults do. It's open during the peak traffic periods. It's also, except on Sundays, it's a voting site as well. Also, the business time also at the Enterprise Learning Center, 2 to 5 is when they have a lot of things going on between 2 and 5 in the afternoon, after-school activities, daycare for extended day and so forth going on, which adds to the traffic along there as well. Okay, and then not too far from there, about a block away or so, is what they call Discovery Tree Academy. That's on the other end, other side of this future store. Also, there's a fire station which is open 24 hours a day. And like I said, the construction will be there soon. There's not a sidewalk there yet. 4 reasons I'm against this is because of safety reasons, children in the area, accidents, being held all kind of accidents. Every time you turn around, there's an accident there. Traffic gets backed up, way back up. And future construction coming on. I would say that in 2023, if you voted for this particular establishment, that's fine. But they have one on Blanding Boulevard, the Shores Fine Spirits and Wine, but it's in a major roadway, goes up through Blanding Boulevard. They got a lot of parking there for it, but this here is quite a bit different from that. You've got a brand new gate station going to be right there in front of it. It's going to be more. That's congestion enough with that gate station coming there. That's going to cause enough congestion turning right when there's no a dead end. Okay, I'll end saying that.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Honolulu wouldn't have had this, not ABC liquor store.
All right, sir. So that is our last speaker. So we will close the public hearing. And do you want to hear the amendment before you make the motion, since there seems to be some pushback from the applicant? Yes. All right, Mr. Rangel, can you explain the amendment? And then we'll have Mr. Harden come up.
Sure. So the amendment would be that it would impose a condition on this exception, that the zoning exception granted herein shall not be effective unless or until the required waiver of minimum liquor distance WLD-2505 pursuant to section 656.133 ordinance code is issued for the subject property. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
All right, Mr. Harden, some kind of issue with that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I am not certain we need the waiver for 2 reasons. One, the PUD doesn't require it, and I don't think it should be. I don't think it can be imposed without the PUD in this particular case. More importantly, I think we're more than 1,500 feet away. The location of the package store is identified on the site plan. That's at a different location than the survey shows it. So I think we're more than 1,500 feet away. I don't want to add something on that we don't need. So if by law we need it, we have to get it anyway unrelated to adding the condition on. But if we don't need it, I don't want to add something on that we're not legally required to do now. So I'd rather not have an additional condition or have the condition on. If we need it, we're going to be required to have it unrelated to the condition.
All right, Mr. Reingold, are there any issues if this committee were to move this bill without that condition?
And I'll defer to the planning department on the history of this, but I think the idea has always been to warn someone who comes here, hey, you still need to get this other thing, don't run out. I don't know if it's the will of the LUZ committee, but to the extent applicable, and then fill in the rest of the condition, just throwing out ideas as to resolve the issue.
Planning department?
Through the chair, so the reason we have the condition is because a waiver of liquor distance was needed, and that's just based off of the liquor distance survey that we received. If we received a new liquor distance survey that showed that the building was outside of the 1,500 feet, then we would not require the waiver of liquor distance. So as the applicant explained, like if the waiver is not needed, then the condition's also not needed.
Do you know if the waiver is needed?
Based off of the liquor distance survey that we have received at this current time, yes, the waiver of liquor distance is needed. But if we received a updated liquor distance survey that showed that it was outside of the 1,500 feet, then no, it would not be needed.
All right, Councilman Amaro?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Abbey, if I heard Mr. Harden correctly, he is saying the PUD does not require the waiver, and maybe he was saying that because the property is 1,500 feet or more. Clarify for me.
Through the chair to Councilman Amaro, the current PUD does not seek a waiver from the Part 8 requirements. So because of that, we would still apply the Part 8 distance limitations to the use that is allowed within the PUD by zoning exception. So yes, so we are still applying Part 8 requirements, which he is seeking through the companion waiver of liquor distance.
All right, there's no one else on the queue.
I'm sorry, may I respond to that?
Sure, Mr. Harden.
Yes, sir. If she's right on the law, I need it anyway, unrelated to having the condition. So I guess the point I'm making is I don't want to add something on we don't require. Now, I am of the opinion that if the PUD doesn't have the Part A requirements, it's not required. I'm thinking it isn't going to be an issue. I think everything will go fine on Friday. The Planning Commission meets Friday this week because of the Juneteenth holiday. So if everything goes fine on Friday, then we're good to go on having gotten the waiver. I don't want to have added on some requirement that we don't have now by adding this language in, if you understand what I'm saying.
Understood. I'll wait for a motion from the committee. All right, there's a motion and second on the amendment.
I'm sorry, what is the amendment?
The condition that was...
the condition.
Yeah, the committee moved for that amendment to be a part of this rezoning. So we have to vote on that. Councilman Johnson?
It's a little nebulous, Mr. Chair, and I'm trying to figure it out myself, but let me tell you, when we had this meeting on last week, that was one of the questions that came up, and I think that's the issue, Ms. Abney, through the chair. The application says, and I do have a few remarks when public hearing is closed, and I can share that, that I prepared, but the application puts it at 1386, which is under the 1,500, if I'm not mistaken. And I asked for, because when I got the site plan, I did not have the site plan initially. I requested it, and I asked for a survey. You and I talked, in fact. I called you about it. And I asked for a survey to be brought back to me. And the actual number from where the tasting room is going to be to where the school is, the actual property of the school, is 1,700 feet, which would put us outside of the 1,500 feet regulation number. And the reason because it was only a 134-foot difference, I did not want us to end up in court because we have approved waivers for places with much less that were closer. And so that was my reason for asking those questions. Does that help to clarify a little bit? Because basically what I'm explaining is that you may not have the latest and greatest information if you're going by what's in the application.
Through the chair to Councilman Johnson. So yeah, so we are going based off of the current liquor distance survey that we have. If the applicant provides us an updated liquor distance survey that shows it outside of that, then we would approve it without needing the waiver of liquor distance.
All right, Mr. Harden, a rebuttal to that?
Yes, sir. It's two ways that we wouldn't need it. One is, as explained by Councilman Johnson in your comments. The second one is a legal position that I should have warned. I didn't think about it, quite frankly. Should have warned Dylan. And that I am of the opinion that a PUD, if the PUD doesn't have the distance requirement in it, it's not required because the PUD stands in place of the zoning code. Again, I'm hoping it won't be important, but I don't want to have put my client into having a requirement that they don't otherwise have. By if we have to have it, as if I'm wrong on the law, then I have to have it anyway, and we'll seek it. If I am correct on the law, and we don't need it, and then the Planning Commission denies it, I've added something on to their requirement that they don't have as a matter of law. So I agree that if as a matter of law we're required to have it, we'll have to have it.
All right, and I apologize to Dr. Johnson. I recognized Mr. Harden. You still have the floor, so the floor is still
No,
yours.
it's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And now this has raised another question. I'm not trying to prolong this, but I'm absolutely curious, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Reingold. I've never heard that before, and I've done a lot of research, obviously not on your level, but it seems to be right. I didn't know that the PUD superseded the zoning code. Can you opine on that from your position, Mr. Reingold?
It has been our general practice that when you've got a PUD that comes in and wants to, in addition to establishing other rights, waive a distance limitation, that we hit that head on in the ordinance, and we'll include a section that says, oh, and by the way, we've analyzed the waiver of liquor distance requirements and we meet the criteria or whatever. I'm trying to go through this ordinance. I'm not sure if this PUD actually went through those steps.
So PUDs, I just want to make sure I get it, need to put in there specifically that this is going to go by the code. Other than that, it's its own code. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Help me understand. Am I incorrect in that?
So generally, a PUD is its own zoning code
Yes.
for a particular piece of property. However, when it comes to waivers of liquor distance or waivers, we normally handle those through the ordinance that adopts that PUD.
Or putting it specifically in that PUD, we are dealing with that code. It wasn't in this one, and so I think, and like I said, I'm going to speak to this soon, but I think you might be right. Does that mean then, if there are the applicant and I obviously discussed some conditions, does that mean those are null and void at this point?
I was just trying to pull up the old ordinance.
Hard to put you on the spot.
No, I just wanted to pull up the old ordinance to correct to make sure I was stating it right. So I've got the 2023 747. I do not see any language here about waiver of liquor distance contained within that ordinance. Okay, I just want to make sure that was correct.
Is Mary back there? I can't see.
Oh, yeah, she is.
Oh, there she is.
While Mr. Ranko is looking that up, we can go to Mary. I mean, there's the last two bills have had this condition on them. You know, always when we see new conditions that we aren't used to, we do zoning exceptions all the time, but this condition seems a little new in your vast experience of being our attorney on this committee. What is your readout on this discussion?
To the chair, and I'll defer to Mr. Reingold to whatever he wants to add. So this is the kind of condition that more recently in the last year or two we've been including, because if you recall, when we amended the code previously, the zoning exceptions would also go to the Planning Commission. So when they would take those up in conjunction with the waivers of minimum liquor distance, it was all being handled by the one board. But there was legislation filed that stated that the zoning exceptions related to alcohol uses would now come to City Council. And to avoid the situation where the council may grant one piece of it and the Planning Commission might not grant the other piece of it that would be required to allow for the alcohol use, we started instituting this condition relative to the respective requests. So there would be an alternate condition placed on the Planning Commission's approval of the waiver of minimum liquor distance that also says they have to have received the zoning exception from the City Council. So that's why you're seeing this most recently as newer precedent. I do recall there have been instances where the committee has determined that they don't want to assess the condition because there were assurances from the applicant that the alternate zone, the waiver of minimum liquor distance had already been received, but I have not seen that condition not included when the Planning Commission has yet to take action on their waiver of minimum liquor distance.
Which is why I asked them not to defer it.
And Mr. Reingold, should I continue through the queue, or are you still? All right, Councilman Arias, and then we'll hear from yet another lawyer when it's time for Mr. Diamond.
All right, thank you, Chair. I just want to make this very quick. I am going to make a motion, and I don't know if this is the right posture, but we've seen this a couple times already, and this is no different than any other time we've done it, but I would like to remove this condition only for the fact that from the statements that have been discussed today. So I'm doing a motion to remove the condition of minimum liquor distance WLD 2505.
All right, we have already moved the amendment, so do we need to withdraw that? Yeah, we didn't vote.
So if you don't want to assess the condition, you would just vote no on the amendment, and then it would not be assessed.
Easy.
The other thing I could say to supplement what Mr. Harden indicated is he is going to the Planning Commission at the next meeting to seek the waiver. If for some reason they didn't grant it, then he won't be able to proceed with the alcohol use without the waiver. If they did grant it, you've already proposed approval of the zoning exception if that's the action you take. So it may not be required on the Planning Commission end to also assess the alternate condition on their side.
Thank you.
All right, so let's clear out this amendment by voting no, which I was going to do anyway. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. It fails. I have a motion and a second on the bill. I have people in the queue. Diamond's out. Councilman Johnson.
I just wanted to say, and I think because it wasn't here, Mr. Chair, the reason why this issue happened is because the Planning Commission deferred this action. I've been watching this closely. The school board representative asked them to defer the action because they claimed they didn't know, even though it had been noticed properly, which then threw us into chaos because it didn't follow the tracking. So that's why we're ending up in this conundrum now.
All right, thanks for the clarification, and good luck on Friday with the Planning Commission. There's no one else in the queue, so let's open the ballot, record your vote.
Six yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved. 2025-0370. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you for indulging me for just a moment, Mr. Chair. I want to say, first of all, thanks to the community that came out to speak about this. And I also want to say to the applicant, because I think it is important and I wanted it on the record, while I can't assess a condition because of how this is, there was a request which will be done over at the Planning Commission to not have the school board has requested to not have tasting events in the morning because of traffic and to not have any events before 4 p.m. I just want to put that on the record. I did reach out, and the representative for the applicant was there. Additionally, I can't legally require the applicant to, and I hope you'll take it back to the client. I can't legally, obviously, require the applicant to engage in community affairs, but there's such an immeasurable value when we are good corporate citizens in this community. And I believe that this community stewardship is what we saw tonight, especially when there were conversations. And one of the things the community has asked because of what's being sold in this establishment is that there be some kind of community service effort. So I just urge the applicant to help us build stronger neighborhoods and communities and find ways to give back. And I pledge to work with you on that to ensure that our communities are safer and better. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Next up, item 30, 2025-0371. Please declare any ex parte. Seeing none, let's open the public hearing and get a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is ordinance 2025-371, which seeks a waiver of road frontage to reduce the required frontage from 80 feet to 0 feet for 2 lots. The subject property consists of 2 separate lots, each approximately 2.5 acres in size, located 400 feet east of Hutchinson Road. Hutchinson Road is a local roadway located off West Beaver Street between Chafee Road and Halsema Road. Per Section 656-407 of the zoning code, no dwelling or dwellings may be constructed on a lot in a residential zoning district unless the lot has frontage on a public or approved private road equal to not less than 80% of the minimum lot width. The properties are zoned as R acre, which requires 100 feet width and 80 feet of road frontage. While the lots do not have frontage along Hutchinson Road, proposed access will be through a 20-foot wide recorded easement along the north property boundary that connects to Hutchinson Road. Staff finds the request to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the surrounding development pattern and forwards a recommendation of approval.
All right, thank you for that. I have no one in the queue. Actually, I do. Councilman Arias.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask the applicant a question, if they may come up, please.
Is Roy Shaw here? There's one person hanging out. Is this your house?
I live next to it, yes.
Okay. You're here in support? Or not? Just interesting.
Well, how about, Chair, we defer this till whenever he's here so we can hear what he has to say, since the community wants to know.
All right, I don't know if we need to vote on that, but I'm happy as the chair to defer this item. So let's continue this public hearing until, Dylan? Till July 17th. Till July 15th. And if someone with the planning department would get with the applicant and let them know it's good to show up to these things. All right, the following bills will be deferred for public hearing on July 15, 2025. That's 2025-394 and 410. The following bills are on second reading, 2025-416, 417, 418, 419, 420, and 448. Normally, I would slam the gavel down and get us out of here, but it's the end of an era. 3 years for me chairing this thing. It's kind of bittersweet. I get to go be the president, which is cool, but I get to leave behind my LUZ family, which I've been a part of for so long. So I do have some gifts for you gentlemen, since there's just gentlemen here. As your chairman, I always like to take care of you guys for doing the work. And it's been a pleasure. Staff, thank you so much for another great year. And we got some people on the queue. Councilman Gaffney Jr.
Hey, Kevin, it's been a fun ride this last year. I was just saying to Councilman Lane earlier, these last 12 months went by really fast, but I learned a lot from you. I shared last year that, this your demeanor, your composure to deal with adversity. I learned from you a lot. So, but job well done. I appreciate it. And, look forward to the next fiscal year in 12 months.
Let's go. All right. Councilmember Johnson.
Actually, I want to, I usually try not to correct my colleagues on the record, but I'm going to correct Councilman Gaffney, sir. It's been a 24-month ride. Think about it. I'm just messing with you, man. It's been a 24-month ride. No, I don't. Well, unless if you're the gentleman from the beaches. I want to say, man, Kevin and I are obviously council chair are in, I won't call them rival, but different fraternities. And we joke about it all the time, but I am really, you run this ship really tight. I'm honored to call you a friend. We've not always agreed, but we found ways to make good government from stuff that people have brought us, and we've done it together. And I don't just mean that from you. You've been a fearless leader, but for all of my colleagues on this committee, it has honestly been the honor. I have learned so much about land use and zoning in the last 24 months, and I study those planning books all the time. And so I don't know where, if I knew who was making the decision as to what committees we will be on next year, I would certainly make a play to come back. But I don't know where I will be. So I certainly will say, I'm thankful for you, man. Thank you. You've done a great job. And our committee mascot, that beautiful little girl, she's always going to be ours. Thank you, man. Thanks for a great
We've
year.
all heard from her in phone calls and procedural matters. Councilman Diamond.
Nice work. Appreciate you saving literally dozens of hours of my life. So I'll give that same courtesy back to everybody else. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Councilman Arias.
Yes, Chair Kevin, you've been the number one mentor for me and for our committee here, and I honestly look forward to your leadership next year as council president. The way you've led this team here, I can only imagine how you're going to lead the 19. So looking forward to that, and congrats on that.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Councilman Amaro. You got him. You got him.
Mr. Diamond. I'm one of those who believe that leadership is not title. It's the ability to influence, to guide, to persuade, to get people to do things that they normally would not do. And in the last couple of years, you in that chair, you've behaved in that manner where you've brought leadership and guidance and wisdom. You've shown empathy to the community that comes up and always willing to give them a voice, even though probably in the back of your head you're like, let's go. and that's admirable. That's leadership. And so thank you for allowing me to be a part of this for the last 2 years. So.
All right. Thank you, sir. And thank you all for the ride. And maybe we'll see you in a year. Well, I won't see you next year. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.